All right. Hello? Hello? Oh, yeah. There I am. I do sound odd. Never realized that before.
Really?
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. Should have known that.
No, it is weird, like, when you first hear your own voice.
That's kind of where I'm at, man.
It's really strange when you start to hear it. You're like, huh?
I didn't realize I had a lisp.
You have a lisp?
I didn't realize that until I heard myself on Chris's podcast. I was like, why are my S's sound so weird? Like, what is wrong with me?
I don't hear it, though.
Maybe I'm just...
Maybe
I'm making it up.
We'll work on catching it. We'll see.
You guys are going to be like, oh, there it is. Be in the middle of something.
There it is.
This fucking guy over here.
Oh, man.
Think about all those people you beat up, too, over the years. I don't have a lisp. Like, fuck, man, they were right.
I don't care what you say. I don't have one.
Yeah.
All those squats.
Yeah, they knew all about it. That was a pretty good workout we got in this morning, huh?
That was great. That was unlike anything I've ever done. We were here about 45 minutes to an hour. I'm like a diesel engine. It takes me a while to get warm. I don't have this young, supple tissue like this guy, so I'm warming up. And Mark just walks in the gym, and he's like, let's start lifting. Rack gets loaded, and we're like, all right, let's do this. This is great.
4 plates it is.
Yeah, we were just going at it. It was fun.
Yeah, we did some back stuff, but you guys worked out yesterday, right when you came in, right?
Yeah, we landed, and Chris was like, what do you guys want to do? You want to eat? You want to train? We're like, oh, let's go hit super training, man. Strongest gym in the West. Let's go get after it. So we came in and just kind of on the airplane, actually, we were just kind of writing out all the movements that we wanted to hit. And we're like, all right, we'll kind of start programming them up. And Andrew jumped in with us. And, yeah, we got a couple little just a couple little things in. It was kind of nice. Got an EMOM, got a little AMRAP in, and then did a little 21 to 15-9 complex, kind of going down, going up, and it was
terrible.
21 15-9, I think, of anything is really, really hard.
It is.
I mean, you could pick the simplest exercises, and it gets to be hard fast.
Yeah, and the thing when you do some of those movements too is it doesn't matter what kind of shape you're in. It doesn't matter if you're an absolute savage. It doesn't matter if you're completely out of shape, because the better shape you get in, the more intensity you bring to the lift or the exercise or the movement, and so it just smokes you that much harder. It's like there's no hiding from it.
Wow.
But yeah, it was fun. It's been great. It's been great out here training. It's a great environment, great atmosphere. Pretty easy to work hard in a gym where everybody's getting after it.
Have you guys been lifting together your whole lives? So how does that work? You guys are brothers, and
Well,
you guys wrestle and beat the shit out of each other and lift and stuff like that together, or what's the deal?
A lot of that.
I would say that, like, I always wanted to kind of chase him and emulate what he was doing, and we had a little bit of an age gap between us, so I never really got to train with him until recently, but he had always kind of tried to train me and push me in that way, training for football or baseball or whatever the sport was, so I kind of learned a lot from him in that way.
I remember when he was, he was like 14 years old, and I was playing football, and he was kind of getting into football, and he came to me, he's like, hey, I want to start lifting, I want to start training. I bet I still have the original picture we took of you. And so we just started, he just started doing all the same stuff I was doing, and he's naturally extremely lean. He's just a lankier, leaner guy. And I remember the hardest thing for him was just keeping up on eating.
Yeah.
But the thing that's crazy about him is he's really conditioned to eat. Like, he knows how to eat. Like, if it's time to put food down, like, because even at a young age, he was like, I'm not hungry anymore. I don't want to eat anymore. I'm like, well, that's a shame, because here's a protein shake.
Yeah,
and to this day, he can't really eat eggs.
Yeah, eggs are hard for me to eat, because, man, that summer you were like, hey, man, we're going to get a training session in. We're going to do some hand-eye coordination, some ball work. And you know what? Last night's leftovers, all you.
Yeah.
And we eat last night's leftovers, man. And then
scramble it up.
Well, it wasn't even just that. It was like, I remember eating like 3 New Yorks and some potatoes, and he was like, how was that? Pretty good. And he goes, how about 8 raw eggs? How about that?
Yeah,
How about
we were
just drink those? And I would drink that, and then I'd go yak it up. He'd be like, looks like you got to drink it again.
Yeah.
So now you're scarred because of all the eggs.
So I got to eat eggs because I know the nutritional value is high, but I'm not really enjoying it.
Sorry, I shouldn't have tried to bring you to breakfast this morning.
We trained together. I kind of put him through a lot of just like, bro stuff that I didn't really know what we were doing, but we were probably getting good work in. We were running hills, and we were doing kind of, entry level.
How'd you find out about fitness and lifting and stuff?
Well, both of our parents are really active. Our dad was he was a college football player. He ran track in college. He was a pole vaulter. He went to school for exercise physiology. Our mom to this day is still a personal trainer. She's done group fitness stuff. She does personal training stuff. So our families we've been involved in fitness our whole lives. We were really blessed. Our parents have there's like a pretty passable gym at our house. So kind of growing up, it was always like, oh, where's mom and dad? Oh, they're in the gym.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we have pictures of my dad running half marathons with us in strollers, and my dad told me that just the other day when we were home, we broke the Concept 2, but it's not because we were so strong. It's because our dad bought one of the original Concept 2s that had I'm talking a wood handle.
Wow.
And that was
it was Concept 1.
Yeah. And I remember our dad told us that he bought it because when I was born, he's like, well, yeah, I needed to go to the gym, so I just put you in the backpack and I just get on the rower and just start rowing. So it was just kind of in our family, kind of in our blood growing up. And then just watching videos and just trying to be like other just meathead idiots and just I think we should do this. Let's start bench pressing and stuff like that.
We were just talking yesterday on the podcast. We were just doing a podcast amongst ourselves, and we were talking about how when you're 7 or 8, you're following after that 9 or 10-year-old kid and wanting to be like him. Do you think it was beneficial to you to try to follow in your big brother's footsteps, or was it in any way negative? Trying to keep up with him, maybe.
I think for me, it helped kind of get in my head that I could go harder, because there's a lot of kids my age who are like, oh, just do the school workout and PE or whatever, and I'd be like, all right, well, I'm ready to really turn it on. It was like a warm up. I'd go back and I got to chase him somehow. He was bigger, stronger, faster, always. So I just wanted to, do the extra work, and so in that way, I think that it really helped me. So,
are you able to keep up now? Are you able to beat him sometimes?
There's a couple of things,
catch him here and there.
But I mean,
he's strong, man. He's you saw him today. I mean, he's got some weird stuff. He's just insanely good at. He shouldn't be really good at deadlift, but he outpulled me today a couple times, and he's really good on the rower. Has a really weird strength to body mass ratio. For a guy that weighs
good at weird stuff.
Yeah. For a guy that weighs 210, he's pretty good. He's 210, 215. He's pretty good at handstand push-ups and a lot of ring work. And I mean, he just cooks me in that stuff. But
do you guys train differently, in terms of powerlifting or whatever? Do you do different stuff?
Well, I'll tell you what I did. I'll tell you, and he can tell you his journey. I was full just athletics. So most of my strength training background's been kind of inside of a gym for football or baseball. Played hockey growing up, so just kind of real sports specific training, and all the way through college. And then when I stopped that, I got into CrossFit. So those are kind of the only modalities that I train.
Okay.
He's a little bit different. He actually followed old school Mark and got into powerlifting, and I don't know, you tell him everything you've kind of done.
Yeah, I mean, I'll run it back. And so when I first started working out, my dad and brother were like, hey, let's get you on calisthenics. Let's make a really strong foundation for you. It's push-ups, dips, pull-ups, whatever it was, air squats, lunges.
You're but I want to lift.
And they're like, but you got to be strong before you lift, because I was super skinny and lean. True. And I did all that training, and one of the early guys we worked with, Ryan Paul, got us on isometric holding, things to really get time under tension, building the endurance without risking injury in athletics.
What's this isometric thing? A machine?
It was just
holds.
5-minute squat.
Oh, just holding weights. Okay.
5-minute squat, 5-minute lunge, that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, this guy, we would train with this guy, and he would set milk crates up, and you'd get in a spread lunge, and you just dip down to where your knee bend was below the parallel point of the milk crates, and he'd start the clock and be like, well, 5 minutes cumulative. And that was the warm up.
And then you get
pull on something, you push on something for 5 minutes.
No, you just hold a lunge on top of milk crates.
Oh my
God. In a split lunge, just hold it for 5 minutes.
And then once you get advanced at
each
that,
leg.
I love that. And you were able to do that?
Yeah.
Well, you work up to it.
Jesus.
Once you get good at that, though, then you put a barbell between your legs. Then you add 5.
You start
then
holding
you add
barbell,
10s,
yeah.
And all of a sudden, you're just that weirdo doing 30-second holds with 225 between your legs.
Yeah, it's weird.
And so that all happened. And then I was like,
that would be really
That sounds like torture, literal torture.
Oh, but your muscle endurance is crazy.
Just try to stay a little bit closer to the mic here. Let's move it this way.
Yeah, you just start out working. But and then I was like, I want to do something that I enjoy, because that just hurts. So then I started getting into powerlifting, and you know, I'm like 30 pounds lighter than I was when I was really powerlifting, and that's when I started following you and just getting into you know the slingshot bench, you know.
Then you're like, I need to get fat like this guy.
And then you know he had this massive bench, and I was like, I gotta do 400. And the first time I did 400 was after doing, you know, a 12-week training block using the slingshot, and I got it.
I remember the first time he showed me the original. He's got like the old school slingshot, old school gangster rap, like probably generation 1. I remember the first time he showed it to me, I was like, get that thing the hell out of here, man. We're not going to put this thing on. Just put the freaking weights on. And he's like, and then he shows up a couple of weeks later, and I'm like, good Lord, this dude's throwing weights around. What the hell's wrong with him?
Yeah, this shit works.
So, yeah, we've just always kind of been training different stuff. So I like stuff that's a little more like, I like to mix cardio in. I like to try to do as many different things. He's just a big, likes to feel good when he's lifting guy.
Yeah, I mean, now I would say the main difference between him and I in training is he's CrossFit, and I would say I'm like cross lift.
Yeah.
Where, you know, like
Cross lift.
I'll get on the erg, I'll get in the assault bike, I'll get the cardio in when I want, but it's very much just kind of what I want to do is what I do that day, and I have to enjoy it, or I just won't do it.
He's
So-
he's an intuitive lifter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like today we were talking about, you know, rep scheme, and you're like, yeah, I'm just going to kind of go till it feels good. And I'm kind of the same way. I throw some weight in the bar, and it feel good if I'm supposed to do it for 5 and I can do it for 8, I'll do it for 8, you know.
I do the same thing with the weight on the bar. You know, I just keep going up, and then it's just all of a sudden doesn't, because I'm not really following anything in particular. I'm not competing anytime soon. So I get a weight on there, and yeah, I'm always trying to go as heavy as I can handle. But once I start to go a certain weight, if my form starts to waver, I'm just like, well, that's just where today is. That's just where it ended up. And so, you know, I have to sometimes pull myself back and say, okay, well, that's the way it went for today. You can't add more weight. And I just got to kind of leave it at that. But I think a lot of people are pushing and they're trying to get that weight on there. I'm like, I want to move the weight a certain way. You know, some of the stuff we talked about, like how Mike O'Hearn trains, and some of the stuff I was showing you guys today, it's like, look, man, if we move this weight a certain way, we don't really need weight on there. We weren't using a lot of weight on certain things, right?
At the end, we're getting smoked with just there's that 45-pound plate, man. But you know what? Like you guys are both saying, it felt good. I mean, the tension was good, the body position was good, and you know that set probably cooked me just as much as when we had 4 plates and 25 on there. You know,
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
How'd you guys? So you've been a fan for a long time, and then what was the progression of you running into like my brother? Because you're a fan of my brother's, right?
Yeah, so this is like the crazy thing, and this is what I was telling Chris that I thought
Because this
was
is
so funny.
it's kind of a weird story.
It's a weird story. So, Bigger, Stronger, Faster comes out, and my brother was like, "Oh yeah, the guy who made that video, his brother's this power lifter. He's a badass." I'm like, okay, I don't really follow lifters, whatever. But at the time, I was really, and not just at the time, but I was really into independent cinema. I took a bunch of cinema classes in college as electives, and our class went to the Sundance Film Festival a couple times. And you know, Chris was like, you know, Bigger, Stronger, Faster came out. It was bigger than life. I mean, it was like the independent movie of like, you know, I tell him all the time, he's like a once in a generation director as far as independent cinema goes. Guy's amazing. So I was a huge fan of him, and I remember actually our class at the Sundance Film Festival did a whole presentation. They did a whole deal on Bigger, Stronger, Faster, and we had to write a paper on it. And
Wow.
we're looking into Chris and everything. And so, you know, fast forward, you know, whatever it is, 10 years, kind of find the carnivore diet, you know, see Baker on Rogan like a bunch of other people did. I'm a curious guy, so I'm, you know, trying to kind of reach out to Baker. You know, one thing leads to another, get in touch with him. We end up chit-chatting, and he's like, we're talking, and I'm like, hey, you know, I see you're friends with Chris Bell. I was like, I'm a huge fan of his movies and stuff like that. Next time you run into him, just, you know, connect us or something. I'd love to, you know, say what's up. Well, 5 minutes later, Dr. Baker links us up on email. And you know, Chris is like, hey, what are you doing? He's, you know, obviously a super nice, jovial guy. He's like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, you know, I'm out in Austin. I work for Hopdoddy. He's like, no way. I got, you know, you got one of your guys' restaurants is like next door to me. I'm like, dude, I'll come down and we'll see you. Let's eat some meat and train. and that's kind of how it started. And then I remember calling.
Yeah, I remember he called me. He was all pumped. He's like, I met the Hopdoddy guy. 'Cause he kept telling me how good the burgers were.
Yeah.
He's like, this is gonna be amazing.
Yeah. And so then I call my brother. I'm like, Jack, I'm gonna fly to Cali. I'm gonna go hang out with Chris Bell. We're gonna eat and lift. He's like, no way. I'm like, yeah, man, it's gonna be great. And so, you know, that was a while ago now, and we just talk all the time and train, and it's good stuff. And then, you know, it's just kind of funny, you know, like big brothers or big brother connection, and, you know, you're following him, kind of little brother connection. It's kind of funny.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, that's a interesting spin. How did you get into, you know, being like how did you end up getting this position at Hopdoddy? Like, were you a cook
Cooking,
before
yeah.
or something like that? Or?
So yeah, I when I was playing football in college and that kind of came to an end, I didn't really know what I wanted to do after I graduated, and I moved to the mountains to be a ski bum, and I ran out of money, and I started lugging boxes, kind of. And in a mountain town, what happens is that, you know, the ski lodges, they all have like, you'll serve, you know, thousands and thousands of people a day. So semi trucks will back up at 4 a.m. and they'll unload pallets of frozen food, and you got to put them on a hand truck and ride them up the gondola and put them away in the freezer. And
Damn.
I did that for a whole winter, and I was like, yeah, man, this sucks. And they were like, well, if you want to make more money, you got to cook. And I'm like, I'm not cooking. And they're like, well, you should cook if you want to make more money. So I did that, and then that kind of turned it, you know, one thing led to another, and I started cooking in a mountain town, and then moved around a little bit, and ended up opening my own restaurants back home, and had a couple in San Francisco, had a couple in Arizona.
Wait, like Hopdoddy's or
No.
Totally
this is my own restaurants.
Okay,
So I opened my own restaurants. And
What kind of restaurants were those?
oh, they were all over. I had 2 classic American kind of gastropubs. I had like kind of an upscale Italian, kind of Italian influenced steakhouse. I had a Puebla style Mexican restaurant that we're more spirits focused, so we did a lot of cane and agave stuff. So it was all like tequila, mezcal, sotol, cachaça, bacanora, really obscure, esoteric spirits from kind of Latin America, Mexico. I was part of a country bar down in San Francisco, and then kind of 2 other just kind of American food restaurants down there. Then I did another Mexican restaurant down in Arizona. And then after all that, a guy that had kind of mentored me for a while reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to come down and take a position with Hopdoddy. There was a growing kind of sexy burger brand at the time. And I moved down to Austin 2 years ago. I think we had 15 units when I showed up, and we have 33 right now, and 9 under construction. And it's been an amazing ride. And so yeah, I oversee all the food and beverage for the whole company. So I write the menus, come up with all the specials, kind of oversee most of the training process for that, do a lot of the hiring, do a lot of the evaluations, oversee a lot of the creative process, and I've really just kind of been blessed to be on a really great team and kind of see this kind of growth rise, which has been fantastic for me as kind of the next stage in my career, kind of going from a budding entrepreneur into kind of integrating into a large organization that's growing. So it's been a blessing. It's been amazing.
Is that weird for you? Is it like unconventional compared to other jobs that you've had? I mean, it sounded like you had to be pretty buttoned up to have these restaurants. I'm sure you got to be organized and stuff. Do you like that aspect of it? Do you like the aspect of being like going from being a meathead in the gym and throwing around some weight and then, putting on your executive pants? Do you like doing that? Or
yeah, it's funny because when I was the part that only people that know me really, really well would know this is when I moved to the mountains and first started cooking, I kind of stopped training and I didn't really have time. And when, at that point, I was at this crossroads where there was really no option for me. It was like, I got to start making money. I got to start doing something. I graduated college. And so training and basically any semblance of a healthy lifestyle kind of went by the wayside. And then when you become an entrepreneur, I opened my first restaurant when I was 25. So, there was just no time for any of that. And so the unconventional part of what I do now is that going from an entrepreneur to being part of a larger organization is maybe a little bit different. People usually do it the other way. They start with a large company and then they go break off on their own. Mm-hmm. But what being a part of a large company has really afforded me the ability to do is I just get to leverage great people around me. I get to be a part of a team. So not every single moving component is incumbent on me to move the needle. So it's actually freed me up a little bit to be able to kind of recommit to the gym and kind of come back and start training a bit more and find a little bit better work-life balance. And so I absolutely love it. And, one of the cool things, and it's not quite to the extent that you guys have here, obviously, given the nature of our business, but our company's very young and progressive thinking and very health conscious. Chris met our CEO. Our CEO's like telling Chris, he's like, no, I can't eat right now. I'm on my 16-hour fast, and he's drinking bulletproof coffee, and a lot of people in our office are very very health conscious, and it's a cool company in a pretty cool city that's pretty aware of that stuff. So it's fun. I like it a lot.
A lot of times people say a great way to like burn through a lot of money is to open up a restaurant.
I tell you two things I'll tell everybody, because
you better damn be passionate about it or have a really good idea, right?
Yeah. So being kind of the restaurant guy in my circle of people that I know, probably 1 week doesn't go by that I don't get a call from somebody being like, hey, I got a friend that really wants to talk to you about opening a restaurant. And I always tell people two things.
No, don't do it.
Yeah. So after I say absolutely not, I say the first thing is, if you get it right, if you can nail it, it's an ATM machine. If you can't, it's a vacuum cleaner. And the second thing is and then after I tell them that, and they're like, okay, well, I think we're going to get it right. We got a good idea. We got a good location. I'm like, you said every restaurateur. The second thing is, and I mean this wholeheartedly and dead seriously, if on your birthday, you're not willing to leave your family's dinner table, drive to the restaurant, and clean human shit out of a urinal, then you shouldn't open a restaurant, because those are the type of things that will be asked of you as a restaurant owner. And if you're not prepared to make that level of sacrifice, then don't do it, because that's literally the stuff that'll happen. The worst thing you can imagine will happen at the worst time, and it'll happen over and over and over again. And you'll feel like you'll feel like the Israeli army, just constantly at war. You're just constantly at war against what's going on around you. Yeah. And it's amazingly rewarding. It's incredibly fun. But you have to have a ton of great people around you. And
I think everybody likes the idea of like, yeah, it would be badass to own a place that I can invite all my friends to, and like
Exactly.
you kind of think of that side of it, and you're thinking, yeah, it's gonna bring you're like inside the place, like the place is packed all the time. This is a money making machine right here.
Yeah, it's funny because restaurants, cool restaurants fail to be cool unless they're a business, and a lot of restaurateurs fail to remember and to know that you're in the business of business. So if your restaurant isn't making money, it's not gonna be cool for very long because it's gonna go out of business, Yeah. But you're absolutely right. So many people are like, oh, I just want this like small little wine list and maybe, something for so-and-so. And the telltale sign of somebody going down the rabbit holes are like, I'd really love you to get with my wife. They've got some great ideas for menu items. And, her sister-in-law is going to do great on the design. And I'm like, all right, guys, we're done here with this conversation. This ceases to happen now.
You need to bring in professionals.
Yeah. And there's people that are substantially probably better than me at this. I've been really blessed to be in a position where I get to do. I'm at that perfect intersection with Hopdoddy of the things that I like to do and the things that I'm good at crossover really well. And so it's afforded me a bunch of great opportunities, like being able to meet people like Chris and come up and hang out and do stuff like this with you guys. We're in the middle of a menu rollout right now. We're changing the menu in 9 states and all of our restaurants in 2 days. So
wow.
But again, when we set out to do a menu change and we set out to do broad scale changes like this, we try to develop such a great system and such a great process. We try to train people so well that this is literally what we talk about doing. We're like, hey, if we do our job right and we set our people up for success, we give them the tools that they need, the day we roll the menu out, we should all be on vacation because there shouldn't be any questions. We should have answered every question. We should have trained everybody properly. We should just be waiting for a phone to ring, and it shouldn't ring because our job should just be done by then. So.
When you opened all those restaurants earlier before Hopdoddy, were these like you did one that stopped and then the next one? Because you mentioned like 5 or 6.
Yeah, I did 2. Then we moved on from those, did another one, bought another one, moved on from those, and then down to Arizona, and then up to San Francisco.
And do you still like right now with any of these restaurants? Do you still own them? Did you sell them or just like
sold a couple of them, closed a couple of them?
Okay.
I was the poster boy for cool restaurant, not cool for long.
Yeah.
I was the poster boy for you couldn't get a seat. Our place was packed. Food was amazing. I fell into a lot of kind of pitfalls of either paying people too much, not paying people enough, not being a great leader myself, not making the hard decisions that needed to be made in business.
Being too social is a big rabbit hole people go down when they own restaurants and bars and stuff like that too, right? Drinking too much and things like that, and hanging out with employees too much and things like that, right?
Unbelievably so. I mean, I think
because it's entertainment. Food's entertainment, right?
I probably single-handedly closed one of my restaurants because of that reason. I mean, and looking back on it, I could confidently say, like, hey, as a 26-year-old, young entrepreneur, when you put music, food, cash, and booze in 4 walls with an immature leader, I mean, that's probably going to happen. I mean, you go to business school and you think you learn how to run business. I mean, and you might know about business, but you don't know anything about leadership. You don't know anything about building a team. And I learned that the hard way in spades. But I think it all really ultimately kind of prepared me to be a better member of a team now. And I remember the whole time I was doing it by myself, right? Or the whole time when I was, I was the chef, I was janitor, I was everything. And the whole time I was thinking, God, I would make the world's best sous chef. Like, I would make the world's best number 2. Like, if somebody just called me and was like, hey, just come in and just do this, I was like, God, I think I'd be great at this. and then I kind of got lucky enough to be able to be in that situation where, I'm able to kind of parlay the things that I'm decent at and make a career out of it and be able to train like a maniac, spend more time with family.
Hopdoddy is primarily burgers, right?
Yeah, and it's different because we try to be as health conscious as we possibly can, but ultimately we just try to be kind of as fanatical about quality as we can. So people are going to make the choices they want to make when they come to eat. Inherently, it's kind of an issue to serve milkshakes, French fries, and cheeseburgers and be healthy, but we just try to do it the best way that we can, right? We try to source the meat.
That's what people are looking for, though, too, right? I mean, there's some people that might want to eat like my brother and I without the bun or whatever, right? And there's other people that want to get after it and have the shake and the French fries and have the whole experience, right?
That's me. Absolutely. Oh, what's this? Oh, this is a new video.
What's the best thing you guys got?
Oh man, I think
the dirtiest thing you got. Tell me.
The dirtiest thing we got is probably rolling out right now. It's called a double bacon jam. So it's two 4.25 ounce patties with white and American cheese, pickled mayonnaise, tomato bacon jam, and mustard grilled onions, and it's delicious.
Oh God, that sounds good.
It's delicious.
Really good. That just made me really hungry.
Yeah, there's our spot right there. This is our original restaurant in South Congress. These guys got together, and they wanted to open one burger restaurant. And actually, Nick Foles' dad, Larry Foles, he's like the Steve Jobs of restaurateurs. The guy's unbelievulary talented.
Wow. Nick Foles, professional football player.
Yeah.
Right? He was on the Eagles? Is he still on the Eagles?
Jaguars now.
Jaguars. Okay.
So Larry Foles and his partner, they had 2 guys that worked for him. And these 2 guys that worked for him came to these guys basically and said, hey, we want to open a burger restaurant. And they're like, oh, okay, let's do it. And so they opened it on South Congress, kind of the funky, weird, cool street in Austin, Texas. And they opened one, and it just went off like gangbusters. And then they opened a couple more. And
you guys have vegan burgers or turkey burgers over there? What do you got?
We got turkey burgers. We've got we serve bison, tuna, turkey, Kobe, regular beef. We serve the Impossible Burger.
That's the vegan. Well, that's one with no meat, right?
Yeah, it's like the no meat burger. And then we serve a kind of a house-made veggie patty. We bake all the buns fresh every day. We cut all the French fries fresh every day. We blanch them, we soak them, we cook them, fry them up. So,
how do you get the meat?
That's been kind of one of those things that it's always kind of fluctuating. We always try to find.
It's got to be hard, I'd imagine. I mean, especially as the company grows, right?
So the first farm that we were working with, we definitely outgrew. They basically came to us and they're like, "Hey, you guys, your trajectory is going to
think about like if McDonald's needs like 1 extra pickle."
Yeah,
it's like that's gonna wipe out the pickles
so
across the country, right?
French fries is actually the bigger problem because everybody wants this certain varietal of fry that is really it's a light frying potato. Everybody wants Kennebec potatoes. In-N-Out takes the lion's share of Kennebec potatoes available, period. So that's what people fight for. For the meat, we try to find really high quality producers, and we just try to make sure that they can keep up with our growth and that they're going to make sure that we don't have any stalls in distribution. So right now we're working with Creekstone Farms, they made the steaks that we were having last night.
Cool.
So Creekstone does a really great job. So we work with Creekstone Farms, we work with Nsima Ranch. I think they're actually in Northern California. They make a Kobe varietal, and we take some of their fat trim, and we fold it into the Creekstone, so we have a little bit more fat that we fold into our patty. But these guys all do a really good job.
What's the diet like for you guys?
I mean, the first diet we really did together was a basic ketogenic diet, and then kind of saw that one through, did the carnivore diet for almost a year. All my friends thought I was nuts. I'm sure you saw the same thing.
You guys probably, you probably get that too, though, right? I mean, when you
it's weird,
when you literally are just like, yeah, what are you having today? 4 ribeyes.
Yeah, right.
So wait, you did like pure carnivore, no carbs.
Yeah. I mean, we did that for about a year.
We did the keto thing together for about a year, and I mean, we kind of oscillated everywhere from like fat kid, like dirty keto, to where we're like, making the guacamole and dipping the bacon in it, being like, this is so healthy, and then we swung the pendulum all the way to the other side, where we were just having like huge, kind of Marxist and big ass salads with like, really limited protein. And then we were like, hey man, let's try this carnivore thing. And that was great, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you probably enjoyed it more than me.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem eating 4 or 5 pounds of meat a day. That's not a big deal to me. I just enjoy it. But the same thing with training for me is at a certain point.
It does sound funny.
Yeah, it does. Right when you say it out loud, you're like, what are you gonna do today? I want to eat a bunch of meat.
Yeah, eat a couple cows every year.
Yeah, no big deal.
But at the same time, at the same thing with training, I have to really enjoy it. And at a certain point, I was like, there's other foods that I really enjoy. And to keep that healthy relationship, wanted to try and eat some other things. And we, went vertical for a while and still kind of on that train. And the vertical diet's great. He makes it really easy with those pre-made meals to get. And they're satiating. We talked about earlier, you can make them as fast as you can eat them, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
I think Stan does a really good job with the food that he puts together. I kind of transitioned from carnivore. Chris actually was like, he's like, dude, you're working out way too hard. You're already pretty lean. He's like, I think you're just killing your body. He's like, I think you need to find some carbs in your life. And at this time, mind you, I will fully admit and wholeheartedly say, like, I was the biggest zealot offender. I remember like when he was doing hardcore carnivore, I would like walk by and he'd be like, making a fruit smoothie, and I'd be like, what are you doing? And he's like, what are you talking about, dude? I'm like, dude,
this ain't a game, dude.
Yeah, I was like, what are you? I was like, what the fuck is your problem? And he looked, and I remember clear as day, he just looks up at me from the blender and he's like, yeah, I don't think fresh blueberry is gonna make me fat, dude. And I was like, all right, well, fuck this guy. He doesn't know what he's doing. But Chris is like,
you're wrong.
Yeah,
storm off.
Chris is like, you need to get some carbs in your life, and I was petrified of him. I mean, I've had a very unhealthy relationship with food. And Chris is like, dude, you need carbs in your life. He's like, I think you should try something you can digest. He's like, clearly you're not metabolically broken. It's not going to hurt you. Maybe it's going to feel your training better. Maybe you're going to feel a little bit better. Cause he was like my support group, right? Like I would be carnivore. And then like, next thing you know, I'm calling Chris. I'm like, Chris, I just ate 3 blizzards, man. I don't know what the hell's going on. And Chris is like, dude, you're fine. Just go train. So like, he kind of like urged me off it. And then Chris was, he was gracious enough to kind of connect me with Lane, actually, with Dr. Lane Norton. And I think I was one of the last people Lane like took on as kind of a consult guy. And so Lane was like, hey man, here's the thing. Check out the science. I had already read Lane's book, which have you guys seen that? Read Lane's book, Fat Loss Forever?
Read that one.
Unbelievable information. It's like a nutritional science PhD, but like in a like easily digestible book. So I talked to Lane. Lane kind of helped me set some macros up, and then I basically use that macronutrient platform, and I just plug in all of Stan's food as best I can. I've never felt better.
That's great.
I think Stan, the way Stan breaks it down and the way that his meals are kind of formulated, I don't know if there's anything better.
So do you, like, with the macros that you have right now, do you pretty much eat the same things every day so you don't have to really count it every day? Like, these are meals that you don't change, so you don't really need to track them anymore, right?
So that's kind of where maybe what I do is a little bit different. I try to keep a backbone of the same meals every day.
Yeah.
But I will say, and the critics out there probably, people are probably going to eviscerate me for this. I probably lean a little bit more towards some of the flexible dieting practices,
Yeah.
and that, like, no, not every day do I have 3 Monster Mashes, 2 oranges, 10 almonds, and a thing of, cranberry juice. But like, I'll throw a Quest bar in, but I'll just toss it into my macros. And then, if I throw a Quest bar in, I'll back out,
Nothing sounds wild about
couple
that.
eggs or whatever,
If anyone's getting mad,
But you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of, I tell you what, for every carnivore person that is out there, which I think carnivore diet's great for longevity and, lean muscle, preservation. Keto diet's probably great for a lot of the neurotropic and fat loss kind of benefits. Gosh, there are people out there that just absolutely want to string people up that are the calorie in, calorie out, flexible dieting people.
You're right.
I mean, for every zealot out there is about that. The macro counting crowd and the calories in, calories out crowd, those people that attack that group, they're like so angry about it. And I think they just think that I think Lane made like 2 references about like, yeah, if you want a Pop-Tart, have a Pop-Tart sometime. And now like the entire calorie in, calorie out crowd is just like these, Pop-Tart, Skittle eating, fat people that want to, that pretend to be fat, that pretend to be ripped. I don't get it.
I think, in the end, the message is actually kind of the same. Like people are just trying to express how they feel about something that probably worked well for them.
Yeah.
And they're excited and they want to share it. And they're like, no, this worked good for me, and they're not really maybe hearing the other point. I think, on both sides or all sides, everyone's guilty of like maybe oversimplifying everything and not understanding like the human condition is the hardest thing that we're trying to like battle against. And I mean, we still have racism, we still have wars, we still have hatred, we still have awful things happen in this world, and we always will. Those things will always exist. And so when it comes to like your nutrition, you think, okay, well, if you just eat, things that are natural, you kind of stay in that realm, then you should be okay. Or if you want to count the calories and you pay attention to what you're eating, you should be okay. But I think that the human condition is that, we want to eat those French fries. We're very enticed. These things are attractive and sexy to us, and they're advertised to us. And there's a lot of emotional attachment to them. So it's not like we're a dog, a dog, you can just feed it whatever you want. And, but even our pets are fat because we've made poor choices with what we choose for them as well. And so I think that's the issue is that it gets oversimplified. Hey, just don't eat any carbs. But if I did have one message to give you, and I'm speaking to the general public, not to people that are in fitness, I would probably tell you should look into reducing the amount of processed foods that you eat.
Oh, I don't think anybody would argue that, right?
And
you could get a vegetarian, you could get Dr. Baker, you could get Lane, you could get anybody, you could get Stan, and I think across the board everybody would be like, probably eat more protein,
right?
Probably reduce processed food, and or stay away from something with a package.
It's so hard. It's so hard for people to do. But if like they could get rid of snacks and have some sort of nice protein source with each meal, I realize that is very life altering though. Like that is a huge life change. You have to prep your meals. There's a lot that goes into that. But if you were to eat some meat or some sort of protein source about 3 or 4 times a day, and you didn't have snacks, you would look forward to those protein sources 3 or 4 times a day. And you would, by and large, probably be okay.
Well, and the ironic thing too is if you have that protein 3 or 4 times a day. I mean, I'm not a scientist, but I know that everything I've read and everything I've heard. I mean, everybody talks about, hey, yeah. I mean, space your protein out. Have 3 or 4 meals with 45, 50 grams of protein. And to your point, if you're not having that Quest bar that's 24 grams of protein, you just kind of, hey, you know what, hold off and just have yourself a piece of lean meat and some vegetables or some rice or whatever you want, and that nutrient timing throughout the day is probably more beneficial than snacking throughout the day.
People get upset about like a donut or something. I heard Jordan Syatt had some information on his Instagram the other day. Somebody was calling in saying like, if I have one donut every day, I'll get fat. And he's like, why do you think that?
Yeah.
And the guy's like, well, donuts just aren't good for you. He goes, well, maybe that's true, but a donut is not necessarily going to make you fat. But I think what on the other side of it, people like myself who've been big before, I'm like, a donut is a fucking giant pitfall.
Hell yeah.
And you have to have abstinence from it. I mean, it's almost like being an alcoholic or something. It's probably not as powerful as that, but it probably rivals it. I know for me, if I kind of call it flipping my taste buds inside out. If I flip them inside out and they're headed towards that direction, that's where I'm going. If I have ice
So
cream,
true.
I'm gonna want more ice cream. If I have pizza, I'm gonna want more. It just it leads me down. It leads me personally down a bad path. So when I see other people say that stuff, I'm like, you can't tell people that. It's not gonna work, man.
Dude, I've been close to 300 pounds out of shape before too, so I'm the same way. I remember the second time I ever talked to Lane, actually, I was like, dude, I'm telling, because he was like, hey man, just make room in your macros for it, very, scientific and pragmatic about it. And I was like, Lane, you don't get it, man. Like if I have an extra bite of a protein bar, like I'm in the car, I'm driving to the gas station, I'm looking for that Snickers.
Yeah.
And Lane just put it to me so well. And every time every time I get an inkling, I hear his voice in the back of my head. He's like, hey Matt, just because you get a flat tire doesn't mean you got to get out and slash all four.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, so,
Time for a new car.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, hey, just because you had one thing wrong doesn't mean you got to go, hog wild the other way. But I heard you guys the other day, and I thought you said it really well about tracking macros and stuff like that. Not everybody needs to do it, and it probably doesn't work for most people. But if you have ever done it for 5 days, you'll learn a lot about what fills you up, what caloric load comes with certain foods, what tastes good. You learn how to, take food, like swap foods in, swap foods out, and kind of what fills you up, what fuels you right. So no.
The huge importance of it is to try to land on a number that would get you to where you want to go, whether you're trying to lose or gain, right? I mean,
yeah,
because there's a lot of calculations you can make, and you can go on these sites and you can figure it out, and you can come up with some information, but really ultimately just doing it would probably be the best. And
yeah, because nobody has perfect information about
how many calories
you need, what's your BMR, what's your TDE, all that stuff. Nobody. So the ultimate goal, obviously, for everybody is just intuitive eating steeped in the backbone of a little bit of knowledge, right? And that knowledge comes from, hey, what does a processed food make me feel like? What does a whole nutritious food make me feel like? How much of this can I eat, or do I need to eat? I think all that stuff's just super relevant,
Yeah, I think the idea though of awareness is so important because, like, again, Mark mentioned, like, if he has some of these foods, right, he knows how he's going to be with it. Over time, you'll start having more and more and more and making more room. And you even mentioned it with the protein bar, but at this point, do you still have any trigger type foods that you maybe just avoid, or do you just make everything fit?
I try to avoid this stuff like gosh, I can't remember the last time I went to a movie in a movie theater because I'm telling you, man, like all that candy, all that popcorn, the sodas, I'm just like, I just want to sit there and do that.
He was super fearful at my house of a perfect keto bar. He's like, they taste too good, I'm gonna crush them.
Yeah, I try to make
he got legit. His eyes lit up. He's like, no man, I can't.
Keep those away from me, Mark. That stuff's. I mean, so I do try to avoid some of those foods that because there's a lot of triggers for me, and I fully acknowledge that I have. Or have had a pretty unhealthy relationship with it. I'd like to eat. I like to eat a lot. And I think maybe that's sometimes it's a game for me in the macro counting. Like how much food can I fit in those macros and how full can I get,
Yeah.
You probably know what I'm talking about a little bit.
I know, because I used to track a lot. I don't track anymore because I'm at that point where I eat intuitively. And like yesterday.
Hashtag jealous.
Yeah, no, but yesterday I had an anniversary with my girl, right? We got some pizza. We had some ice cream. I ate a lot, but it was controlled. Like the thing for me is I know that I'm not going to have packaged food in my house.
Yeah.
Because we've talked about this. If I bought those Nature Valley granola bars.
He's obsessed with these things.
No, but legit. If I go buy those from Costco, even today, they'd be gone in 6 days.
Yeah, man.
Because I know that if it's in the cabinet, if I have one, I'll go. I'll come back and get a second, a third, a fourth, a fifth. So if we have the awareness of what F's us up, then we can still navigate these waters.
I think this is the definition of how you know if you've ever had an unhealthy relationship with food. And I told this to my workout partner at the gym the other day because he was like, "Bro, I think your calories are too low," and I was like, "Nah, man, you don't get it." And he was like, "I think you need to go up a little bit," and I was like, "Orion, let me ask you a question." Have you ever opened any size? Have you ever opened a thing of ice cream and set the lid on the counter? And he was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "I've never done that. I open the lid goes in the trash, brother." It doesn't matter the size. Like ice cream gets open, lid in the trash. I was like, a definition of unhealthy.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Sit down with a giant spoon.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, well, this thing's going down, brother. He's like, okay, I guess I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think a huge thing for people is to just have something to look forward to.
Yeah.
And you think about, I mean, on a monthly basis, there's some sort of holiday almost, right? There's
Yeah.
always like, there's my kids, they have certain days off, you know, President's Day and these different, like we all need things, and the teachers get the day off too, right? We all like need stuff to like look forward to. So I think that people that are listening to this diet and they're not sure what diet to land on, they're like, oh my God, I think they may be intimidated and think they have to try to go the rest of their life and all of a sudden be super strict on everything. But you can take a day off. You can take some time off. I've even had some really good advice from my friend Jesse Burdick. As I was coming down, I used to weigh 330 and I would lose 20 pounds or so. And then he would say, hey, you know what? Go ahead and enjoy this weekend or whatever. And I'd be like, wait, the whole weekend? Like, I want to try. I was getting excited. I wanted to stay on track. I want to stay on point. And he goes, yeah, dude. He's like, at this point, he's like, probably not going to. And every once in a while, I would cause a ton of damage. And every once in a while, I wouldn't. And I would learn. And I would continue to learn. And I would continue to try to make progress. But he would always try to give me something to look forward to. He said, this Wednesday, just go eat a bunch of pasta or whatever it is that you like. To find something that you love, get it out of your system. Go eat pancakes tomorrow. And then at one point, which I couldn't believe, I probably lost maybe about 40 pounds. He was like, take next week off. And I was like, no, man, like I can't take the week off. And he's like, he goes, you're such a pussy. He's like, you're going to make it for like 3 days. And he's like, and you're not going to even want to cheat anymore. I was like, you're full of shit, dude. I was like, you give me a whole week, I'm going to go hog wild.
I'm going to eat it all.
And he was right. I mean, I ate kind of bad for like 2 days, and I didn't all of a sudden go real strict again. I was still eating like pizza and stuff, but just in like lower amounts. But taking that week off was a huge mental break for me. And I'm like, okay, now I need to figure out. And restarting makes you stronger, just like you would on a deadlift. You can tap your deadlifts off the ground, or you can restart them. It's a different training stimulus. They both work things a little differently. So you can keep that momentum and keep going forward if you want, or you can stop and start again. But once you have that power to stop and start again, then you're in control of your shit.
Yeah. He's a trigger for me, because when we get together, we don't see each other often.
Goes, blaming his fucking brother.
We don't see each other that often. So when
seems like a good guy, man. I don't know.
Hey, he's a trigger for me. But so when we get together, we just want to do everything, right? We're just like, let's lift everything, let's eat everything, let's just But he's wise beyond his years, man. I remember. Gosh, I was home maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, and he's a very intuitive eater. Like, I think he's probably a lot like you. But again, unlike Mark and I, he's never had a problem with his weight ever. So you're lucky. But I remember asking him one time. I remember he was eating something, and I was like, "What the hell are you doing, man? We're on the plan. Like, we're supposed to be on the plan. What's going on?" And he just looks at me kind of in that same vein where, "Hey, man, fruit's not gonna make me fat." He's like, "Hey, man, you ain't gonna get skinny from eating one salad. You're not gonna get fat from eating one donut." And I was like, all right, well, I was just like, wise beyond his years, man. Just good. That was good knowledge. But like you were saying, Mark, I think that sometimes the Gen Pop takes that mentality a little too far, and they're like, hey, 1 week of pizza every day, not that bad. Hey, I'm just gonna carry the Sour Patch Kids around in my car. It's not gonna be that. It's like, well, that might actually take you over the top.
Right.
So I think it's just fun to play with. I think the same stuff that you guys probably do. Try new stuff. We were talking about liver today. I'm really excited to go home and try incorporating a little bit more liver.
That's good shit.
Yeah, these guys got me on it, man. I mean, I'm thinking about. I mean, I was asking them like, does it move the needle? You feel any different? Like, when you really are, ostensibly you're packing a bunch of these micro and macronutrients into you, and does it feel better? Is it more satiating? Is it more energizing? I mean, really what I'm saying is you notice a better pump, you notice better energy, what do you, and Mark's like, yeah, just try for 3 weeks. I was like, all right, try to order some up tonight, sounds fun.
Yeah, you just see if something's bullshit or not.
Yeah, give it a whirl.
I know for myself, once I started doing it, that it's made dieting easier. And it's like, who out there doesn't want their diet to feel a little easier?
Yeah, everybody does.
I know that the sleep, after talking to Ron Penna, I've been really taking that super serious. And that locked in the nutrition a lot easier. Like, we have Quest bars and all these things around. I love all that stuff. Normally I would find myself at the end of a day, like, ended up bringing a couple home with me and stuff, but I don't mess with it anymore. I feel really focused. I feel really in tune with stuff, but it's again too, I also will plan to like have things to like look forward to. Like next week I'm going to or this weekend coming up, I'm going to New Jersey, spending some time with my family. And while I'm on the East Coast, of course, I'm going to get some pizza.
Yeah.
You know, of course, when I'm in that area, I'm going to get some pizza, right? I know. I know. My brother's totally offended over there. He and I keep each other. He and I keep each other in check with stuff too, and it's motivating. You know, we work out together and stuff as well, and the food stuff. I mean, we talk about nutrition all the time.
I can't believe. I can't believe how. So, did you say you just started kind of really redialing in sleep?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Because I was giving Andrew grief. I was like, "Hey, where's Nsima? Get him out here, man. Let's get him." And he's like, Andrew's like, "Hey, man, that guy's a savage about his sleep. He's not going to move his schedule for anything. He needs his sleep." And in my head, I was thinking, "Gosh, how does he get along with Mark? Because Mark's because I know that you're the guy that's up at like."
Yeah.
You're up like wide awake, like 3 a.m., like driving to the gym, like deadlifting by himself. And I'm like, I don't know how you hit it as such a savage. Like, because before you maybe have been taking this seriously, were you sleeping like 4 or 5 hours a night?
Well,
or were you going to bed really early?
Yeah. So I've always taken sleep seriously. I just had a lot of trouble sleeping. And then I would kind of make excuses on why I like wasn't working on it or why I wasn't trying to get to bed early enough. Because I was like, I have trouble falling asleep anyway. So what's the difference? And then I was like, no, you need to treat it like training, and you need to like force yourself to figure this out. And so it all actually started maybe about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. I started just waking up earlier, and waking up earlier helped set my clock and helped set everything. I was tired by the time I got through a day. And then so the workouts that I was doing later in the day when I was working out at like 2 or 3, after being here, and this is where I, work as well. And so I wouldn't get back home until like 6. I would eat, then boom, I'd end up in bed late, but I was still waking up early. I'd end up in bed late, and it happened over and over and over and over and over again. And then I was like, I need to take better care of myself. I was getting sick a little bit here and there and stuff like that. And so I started, going to bed earlier, and I started to create other disciplines around it. And once that happened, that's when everything clicked. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is creating so many other cool disciplines for me that I just didn't have before.
Where it's like eating or like getting up and starting the day.
Everything.
Yeah.
I'm always like a day or two ahead. Whereas before I don't know, I kind of have a weird personality. Like I don't really fucking care about much of anything. I really, now that I have kids and a wife and stuff, obviously there's a lot more shit at stake. There's a lot more things to like really care about. But my wife will tell you, like you couldn't make me care about much of anything. I just didn't care about being somewhere on time. I didn't care about taxes. I didn't care that I didn't care that I had bad credit. I didn't care that I didn't have a license. I mean, I still this day don't care about certain things. I don't care how much this like building costs. I have no idea what this place costs. I don't know what our house costs. When we bought our house, the house that you guys went to today,
Yeah.
I never even looked at it. Like we just bought it. Like I'm just weird that way. I just don't give a fuck. I don't care that much.
I guess that's what it takes to get under 1,000 pounds and start squatting it though.
Yeah,
you gotta have a fucking screw loose.
Well, I try to be as like even keel as I can. I don't like to go up too high or down too low. Even if something really fucking cool happens, I don't like to really celebrate it because I'm like, all right, what's next? Let's put up more points. That was cool, but that and when something's real low, I'm like, fuck, that sucked. All right, let's move on. Keep trying to go.
Yeah, man. That's we were talking at the house. I've been struggling with sleep lately. I think my some of the maybe over tinkering with my diet has got me kind of coming out of.
He's eating lower fat right now.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I'm like
how low?
Like, well, Mark is advising it's potentially a bit low.
Yeah.
I'm like below 60 grams.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that'll hit you.
But I keep
At his size, it's a little excessive. How long you been doing it for?
Well, I think I just moved him down because I've just been trying. I was telling Mark I'm trying to just lean out a little bit more for this competition we have coming up because I got a bunch of gymnastics I have to do. So I got my fat pretty low for the last like 5 or 6 weeks, and I'm not saying it is that, but I can say that is a variable that I've changed, and I'm just sleeping horribly, horribly. I mean, every night like clockwork around like 3 a.m, I'm dead asleep, and then I'm just up.
I wonder if why not just see what a day looks like where you have like 2 egg yolks, 2 whole eggs or something, add that little time. I mean, it's just a small serving. Could be that one little thing that helps you go to sleep a little bit better. The other thing too that can help you go to sleep, and I don't know what your schedule is, but if like where I started was just waking up a little earlier. So maybe you just try to wake up a half an hour earlier, you'll just be tired at the end. At the end of the day, you'll be tired until you have 2 or 3 or 4 day period where you're like, man, this sucks. But you'll get through it, and then you should be able. The other thing I used to do that was really awful for me is I wouldn't go to sleep. I feel like I have a sleep window. So if I go to bed, if I get in my bed between 8 and 9, it feels like a really good time slot. But if I miss that, I feel like I miss a window. Like if I try to go to bed at 11 and I always had a really, really hard time with that. And I never really knew that about myself. I just ignored it for many, many years. And, 11 would turn into like 1. And then that's like when I would actually fall asleep. And then, I wasn't up as early back then. So it was a little different. Plus I was fucking fat too. So I had sleep apnea. So whatever rest I was getting, was probably just a lot of. Yeah. Were you in my bed? Yeah.
What? How are you sleeping so good? You just militant about it? Just don't play around.
We trains twice a day, pretty much, right?
Pretty much, but I don't like.
Should I train twice a day? I sleep like crap.
Yeah, no, but the thing is like I don't have a set time where I have to get up. So, if I go to sleep at 10 or 11, I will absolutely get those 8 hours. If I wake up earlier than that, I wake up at, let's say I go to sleep at 10 and wake up at, 4 or 5, I'm going to go back to sleep. Yeah. I don't have an alarm either. I don't do alarm clocks. So I just let myself, some people listen to this like I hate you, but yeah, I let myself wake up and it's usually around 8 hours, boom, I'm up and I'm good.
There's got to be some science behind how much more beneficial it is to kind of gradually come out of sleep than it is to go from a dead slumber to some EDM music playing on your cell phone, jolting you out of bed. That can't be. Sometimes that'll happen to me, and I'll wake up and my heart's racing. I'm like, I don't think this is healthy.
Yeah, heart attacks actually go up a huge percentage when we the time change or whatever.
Daylight savings.
Yeah, that very next day goes up. It goes up 40%.
And most of them happen on a Monday.
Yeah,
which is now you have a responsibility to wake up.
There's some doctors out there that listen to this podcast listen to these idiots talk about alarm clocks. Dude, this is a well-known thing, and we're just up here just drinking protein shakes, talking about training. I don't know. I don't think this alarm thing's helping me.
Yo, let me ask you this: are your carbs super low too right now?
No.
They're pretty.
Yeah, they're pretty high.
I'm guessing
they're about your body weight or something, right?
Yeah. That's help with your performance.
Yeah, I think because of the nature of CrossFit, this is a pretty well-known thing. You need some carbs.
Yes.
I remember the workout that I was still doing the carnivore diet. It was a squat, clean, burpee, toe to bar workout. And in the middle of the workout, not at the end, I was flat backed. And my training partner, who is an absolute savage, came over to me and was like, yeah, we need to talk about your diet, dude. And I was like, no, come on, man. Carbs are going to make me fat. Can't do it. And he's like, man, you're putting some volume in. The other thing I noticed when I put some carbs in, and I don't have Dr. Andy Galpin's background to talk about this, but I do get body work done every single day. Mm-hmm. So I'll do a morning training session. Usually I'll have body work done, and then I'll
That's
train.
Crazy. You get done every day?
Every day.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm a freak about my rehab, but I noticed the quality of my tissue got a lot better. Just being hydrated and being a little bit more supple and kind of less tone in my tissue. I work with these guys inside of our gym. Extraordinarily high end performance guys. They do kind of just this absolute next level training, everything from respiratory training to they put tissue monitors on me. I don't know if you guys heard of Moxie device where it so they put Moxies on you where it monitors oxygen in your tissue. They put Neuroxin monitors on the backs of my legs to kind of see which of my muscles are firing from an EMG current kind of perspective.
Do they along with the tissue work, the soft tissue massage type stuff, do they help stretch and stuff too?
So they're not as much stretching, but they'll do a lot of what they will do is they'll have me use a respiratory device, an NX, and we'll stretch and we'll kind of move in different positions. And the respiratory device gives you a cadence that you breathe in and out of, so you're breathing in and out of moving into positions.
Oh, cool.
But these guys use
sounds awesome.
It's really I'll show you guys some videos. But these guys use this device called an Omega Wave. So I'll walk.
I'm aware.
Yeah, those are amazing. So I'll walk in, but the thing that they do that's really cool is, and I think it's
Joel Jameson knows how to get down with that shit.
Yeah, the way we're able to kind of train different modalities by using this device because we'll walk in and they'll measure. They put a you're kind of looking at me like you're kind of interested. So
Yeah.
I'll tell you, you put a sensor on your forehead, you put a sensor on your hand, and then you have a chest wrap. And yeah, there it is right there. And it measures your DC potential, your HRV. It measures your detox, your hormonal systems. It measures your kind of your heart health, where your heart's at that day. And so these guys will literally, after an Omega Wave session, they'll program the workout that day, or they'll be like, well, your cardiac is a little bit taxed and fatigued right now, but your DC potential is really high. So this is a day we're going to lift heavy, but we probably need to hit some body work first.
How in line has that been in your experience?
It's that machine does not lie. It'll even give you a metabolic.
So-
It'll even give you a metabolic rating. So if you go in under fueled, they'll be like, well, your metabolic system's tanked today, and it doesn't look like you have any DC potential. So we're absolutely not going to lift, but we can do a progressive DSAT, cardio session
Have
on
they
the
done
bike.
different things where maybe they don't tell you like what the result is, or like they're trying to really see how true the thing is? I'm sure there's been a lot of research on it. I'm well aware of the Omega Wave, but I'm asking, in your own experience, have they ever asked you, do you feel like lifting heavy today, and that doesn't match up with like the results of the test or whatever?
They'll ask me stuff. Well, I feel like lifting heavy every day, just
Right,
like you
right.
do.
Yeah, yeah.
But there are days that I will. I'll be like, yeah, I really want to go heavy, and they're like, dude, your DC potential is like -15.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll do some body work, and then I'll get up, and then I'll sit there for a second, and I'm like, yeah, I probably don't have it today.
Right.
But the thing that's cool is with that device, then we can go do other type of programming. These guys are amazing. Train Adapt Evolve in Austin. These guys. Nsima, if you ever look them up, they train all kinds of guys all around the place. I know you're well aware of the technology, but these guys are they've just got back from being in overseas. They're working with a bunch of Premier League soccer teams. They're doing a bunch of consulting with those guys.
Yeah, Joel Jameson, who used to train, I think he still does. He trains Mighty Mouse Johnson. He was a big proponent of like the Omega Wave and the HRV. Have you messed around with HRV stuff at all?
Not at all.
The heart rate,
Absolutely not. No.
heart rate variability stuff.
I'm not like against that. Just
No,
literally
yeah, I
haven't.
think that would be. I'm just surprised I never even mentioned it to you. That would be something that you would dig. You'd be like, "Oh, this is fucking cool."
It's kind of crazy though, because the thing with HRV is like, as I understand it, Mark's HRV might be a 95. Mine might be a 175, but that doesn't mean I have better HRV than Mark. As I understand it,
Right.
it's relative only to yourself.
It's relative to your own
Yeah.
heart rate variability.
Yeah, so if you went from a 95 to a 130, then it's like,
Right.
hey, great. But we're not necessarily comparable.
right,
So anyways, back to the carbs.
Yeah.
I think the carbs have really helped my tissue health.
Okay.
And I know they've helped my recovery. And I can definitely notice days where I come in, and if I haven't titrated enough carbohydrate going into the workout, and I get on the Omega Wave,
Yeah.
a lot of times my metabolic rating's really down.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't link days together, I can notice that like my hormonal system will be really down and tank, and that's typically not great for workouts.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I'm hitting two, maybe 3 sessions in a day with body work in between there. Yeah, and these guys are amazing on the table. I mean, the amount of times that I've gone in there and they're like, I'll just walk in and they're like, well, you got a rib popped out, your sacrum's off, and oh, yep, we're gonna need to line you up.
you're
And
like, what?
I'm like,
I
what are
feel
you?
great.
Yeah, I'm like, what are you talking about? And then they like, lift your arm above your head and like push right here, and I'm like, but it is amazing if like anybody that's listening that hasn't gotten body work done like by a true professional. I mean, I think
Yeah.
it's a game changer. I mean, what it's done for mobility
Ron
and all
grilled us
that.
on that too.
Hannah, yeah.
Our
Yeah.
buddy Ron Penna, he grilled us on that too.
I
He
mean-
like gets mad at you. Like he looks at you. He's like, "Have you gotten body work done?" You're like,
I mean, that soft tissue stuff it really is unbelievable. And and somebody that's like bound up, like you and I are kind of a lot of like somebody that's really tight.
Yeah.
If you get some, like, you probably wouldn't be a great candidate for a ton of tissue work because you're very mobile. But like guys like you and I, you get it a couple times and you're tight enough that you hold a lot of times.
Right.
You get adjusted and you hold.
All right.
Guys that are super mobile, they kind of get
We're
adjusted.
like a $2 steak.
Yeah.
We're really rough and like
Yeah.
hard to rip apart.
they get up off the table. The mobile guys, like you probably doing all the jiu-jitsu and everything. You probably get up off the table and fall right back into the other position. But they move one thing on me, I'm all right. I'm good to go. But yeah, I think that's. I was listening to Rich Froning the other day? He was talking about how like just recently he's gotten really into a lot of that body work and tissue work, and
Isn't that
like
crazy?
all the times he's winning the games, he's just like, yeah, I got a little dry needling done or this or that, and it's like you look at the volume that just goes to show you what an absolute freak savage that guy is.
For some of those people, I think you'd have to be, they'd have to be really receptive to the technology for it to really be effective, probably, because they don't want something telling them something different. Especially Rich Froning's he's pretty simple and he's a beast.
Yeah, he's an animal. But same thing like the guy that I train with, like my training partner. He did exactly what you were talking about. He would get on the Omega Wave and he would just tell the guys, "Yeah, don't tell me. Just don't tell me what it says."
Right.
He just wouldn't want to know. He'd be like, "Nah, I'm gonna go hit this, but if you guys want to like overlay the data, check stuff out, that's fine." But he's just like, "Nah, I don't need to know."
Yeah, like they just walk over and like, "Hey, you should do sets of 6, sets of 8." You're like, "Fuck."
Yeah. Well, it turns out I'm into the set of 19. So what do you want me to do? Yeah. But yeah, I've messed around with the carbs a little bit. The protein, keeping the protein high. I think that's just a given. But we all know that's one of those like table stakes. I don't think anybody here is going to debate, right?
Yeah.
How much protein and how much higher to go? I mean, I think kind of depends on like what you were talking about, like which calculator you follow, or it's just kind of what fills you up, what feels good for me. I eat about 275 grams a day, which is kind of a lot.
That's a good amount.
It's kind of a lot.
Yeah.
I think when you start getting over 250, and I'll be honest about it. I mean, when you get over 250, it's hard to chew that much. You're drinking some protein at that point, which our friend Dr. Baker would not be a huge fan of. Sorry, Sean. I mean, I have a shake or something like that. That's kind of the only way I can.
How do you get your protein? Because that's an enormous amount. So you have like some really lean forms of meat.
Yeah. So I probably am like a pound or a pound and a half of like 96.4 ground beef. I eat a couple of vertical meals, but I use the bison that Stan makes. Egg whites. A little bit of tuna. Seafood. Seafood is nice to kind of break it up a little bit. Tons of rice, sweet potatoes, spinach. Then I'll do a shake.
I love that Stan is teaching people to eat more.
God, isn't that great?
I just love that. I just think there's so many people that are so fearful. I know so many people that are counting the calories, and they all seem to be on a similar caloric path, and they're very scared to like eat over 1,800 calories or 2,000 calories. And I'm like, man, like you've been stuck in the same spot forever. I'd love to see just for a little while, just try to eat 2,800 calories for a little bit and just see how you feel, and maybe you'll land on a different caloric intake, and maybe you have maybe your metabolism has changed, and maybe you're not feeding yourself what you should be. I think a lot of people are doing that.
Not science-backed comment. PSA. Chris and I were talking yesterday, a couple days ago. It's funny when people talk about caloric load, benefits, and biggest meathead comment maybe that I'm going to make today. If you look at people that are in the fasting camp, why people fast. If you look at people that are looking for caloric deficits, you're looking for people that are looking for cellular autophagy, you're looking for people that are looking for better insulin sensitivity, you look at people that are looking for better lean muscle mass, you look at for people that are doing anything and they're saying and basically using dietary intervention for all that. Well, you could just train really hard. And basically all that stuff happens, right?
Yeah.
Like, you want to improve all of those markers. You want to create a caloric deficit, train. You want to upregulate growth hormone, train. You want to create a caloric deficit, train. You want to turn some cells over, train. I don't know. I mean, so Stan's whole thing, right, is like, hey, fuel, and then train, which is simple.
That's what I love about it is he's providing people enough, and maybe even then some in some cases, to fuel their workouts. And I think that we have been underselling the workout. I think one thing that makes Nsima so impressive is the fact that, Andrew was mentioning how diehard he is to his sleep. Well, he's very diehard to the way that he trains. It's not like he's not going to come in here and just like, he's not going to tear the building apart. He's going to do what he's supposed to do for that particular day. And it's like, that's the discipline. That's the hard part, A lot of us can be like a knucklehead here and there and roll the dice and be like, I want to try this.
Yeah.
It doesn't always make the most sense. That's not the best way to get ahead. While I realize that, I also like to have fun, and it's fun for me to kind of like mix things up. But also, I mentioned, I've learned, like, I'm not going to take what's not there. So if something's not there, I ain't going to go for it.
Isn't it crazy how certain weights feel different on different days?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. You're probably too damn young and vibrant to feel that, but I'm telling
Wait,
you.
how old are you?
24.
Oh, snap. Okay.
So I'm just.
No, but I feel that too. I mean, you get in there and 225 feels right, and then you just keep going.
Man, sometimes I can tell when I'm picking the bar up off the rack what kind of
Yeah.
day it's going to be. I'm not kidding. When I'm picking the bar up and I'm walking it over to the squat cage, I'm like, it's going to be a rough one today.
I can feel that sometimes. I'll pick up a 45,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, that seems like a 100-pound plate, you know? And like, we don't-
Who doubled up the plates?
yeah. You're like, oh, that's not gonna, work out great. Yeah, sometimes it's just that way. I mean, and that's the importance of paying attention to how many exercises you're doing and how hard you're going at it. Because if those 3 extra things that you wanted to do on your way out the door that weren't really purposeful or meaningful, they may not bother you the next day, but they could potentially bother you later in the week, and you're not really paying attention to it. You're like, man, why's my grip suck today? Or maybe you did some farmer's carries on Monday that you fucking forgot about.
Yeah,
you know?
maybe you smoked your forearms, and
Yeah.
turns out gripping the door jamb or something
Right.
on your car is gonna hurt. You know?
Your shoulders, your elbows, all your smaller joints and stuff too, they can be compromised. We're moving around a lot.
Yeah.
Somebody else on this podcast, I can't remember who said it, but they're like, everyone at this table has lifted more weights than anyone in like human history. Like not pounds wise necessarily, but the amount of repetitions that we do. We're trying to have like, I guess, this form of like artificial exercise, because we used to do other shit. We used to like dig ditches and stuff.
Like carry rocks and
Right.
build shit.
But the amount of reps and the amount of weights that we handle is extremely excessive. It's not even, I mean, the yoke walks and the farmer's carries and the shoulder presses and benches and squats and so on, right? It just goes on down the line. We've done millions of reps probably.
Yeah. Are you like powerlift, bodybuild, and kind of that
Jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, jiu-jitsu all in one kind of thing.
Yeah, like
Damn.
So the thing is like I'm not competing in powerlifting right now or competing in bodybuilding.
You got a
but those
600
are part of the
600
training.
pound deadlift. You're not competing in anything.
But
Raw.
but the thing is, those are parts of the training. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I incorporate and I maintain those in my training because like I enjoy training that way, and it helps jujitsu out. Like
Yeah.
it just works.
Jits is the main goal, and then everything else kind
Competing in jujitsu is the main thing. I train jujitsu every day, and I lift. There are a few days during the week where I have double days. Where I have like lifting. Like today is gonna be a lifting, and then jujitsu day afterwards. So it just goes really well together. But that's why, like Mark mentioned, I just got to be smart about what I'm doing in the gym, because if I go too hard on one day, that's really gonna affect my workout later on.
Yeah, I think jiu-jitsu is one of those like fringe things that I'm sorry, let me back up. Not one of those fringe things. I think it's one of those things that like most people that are training really hard nowadays are either getting into, want to get into, or have like one foot in.
Yeah.
Right? I feel like almost everybody that I run into at a gym is like either aspiring to get into jiu-jitsu or is already doing it, or is like, God, I'm kind of going a couple days a week. Gosh, I think that must just be a great workout. Some of the biggest savages I train with are like, yeah, I do jiu-jitsu twice a week,
You
Like,
mentioned you got pretty sore in the beginning, right?
Yeah, that's the thing, that like you adapt to it. Initially, it was like the hardest thing ever. Like every single day, I was just like super, super sore. But when you get used to all the movements you do, because you get like your body's being moved in all these different positions that you haven't been put into. But after a few months, you just get used to that, and it doesn't feel. It's just like when you first start lifting.
I'm
right?
100% convinced I would snap in half. I watched.
Day one.
Yeah, I watched the guy that I train with do jiu-jitsu, and I think is it like an overtime where the person gets behind you, basically like you're sitting on the ground and the person gets behind you, and then they say like 3, 2, 1, go, and like
That's
you have
a drill.
You have a second to like get out of it.
Yeah, that's one of the drills. Like
So I'm watching
exactly.
him do this, and I'm like, one dude is sitting on his butt, and the other guy gets behind him in like a headlock, and 3, 2, 1, go, and the dude behind him
Yeah.
just rips back, and I'm like, okay, I would literally snap in half. Like, there's no chance. And the guy that I train with is like, he's made of something different. But he and I was like, how are you doing this? Like, it just looks intense, man.
Yeah, no, like, but that's the thing. Like, I've been noticing even these past few years, there are a lot of lifters and a lot of strength athletes that are starting to get into it and doing really, really well competing in it, because there's the subculture in jiu-jitsu is all about, oh, you just need technique, right? But then you have these athletes that come in that are using technique, and then they're messing people up because like they're already inherently strong, but now they're developing all that technique and stuff. So you would do well. Like,
I don't know.
No, you really would. But it takes time to get used to.
The guy that I work out with, he's He's 25, 26. CrossFit Games athlete. He's been a couple times.
Oh.
He's getting ready to go into the SEALs. He's an absolute freak. Probably one of the only guys I've ever met in my life that he can snatch 260 pounds, drop the bar, go run 3 miles, hop up on the rings, do 19 muscle ups. One of those guys. Great, guy doesn't get sore. Great tissue, absolute savage. I went and watched him do jiu-jitsu. He's hyper mobile, and he messes some people up. Yeah. And the dudes will get off the mat and they're like, I've never been somebody so strong. You're so heavy. And he's not a huge guy. I mean, he's probably like 6 foot, 220, absolute freak. But he pretty much was like, I mean, I guess when you're 24, 25 and you've already been to the games, you've already been to CrossFit Games and you've kind of done regionals, everything. You're like, I'm kind of over that.
Right.
And that's kind of what he did. He's like, yeah, okay, CrossFit's cool, but I'm going to go, kill some people in the SEALs and, do jiu-jitsu. And
Sounds awesome.
So that's like what he does now. Yeah. He just crushes people. Just like you're talking about, like real mobile, real strong. But I think he probably would admit he's still working on his technique. But
yeah, no, it just takes time. But I'm curious, because you mentioned you're getting ready for a competition. What is the competition? Is it a games competition like CrossFit, or is it something else?
Yeah, it's a CrossFit competition. Okay. It's nothing insane. It's just, in Austin. Austin is a fairly active city. I mean, everybody's in pretty good shape. So I'm just getting ready for a local comp that we're doing in Austin, and it's like 5 events one day, guy-girl combo. Yeah, and the workouts are pretty intense and they're pretty demanding. It's this series of workouts that we're doing it's kind of geared to eliminate a lot of people, I think, from being a part of it, because there's heavy weight demand, but there's also heavy gymnastics demand. And most people that can move the weight sometimes can't do the gymnastic stuff or don't have the engine to do a lot of the cardio stuff. I've showed both these guys videos. The gal that I'm partnered up with is probably the best athlete at our gym. Wow. I mean, I can't keep up with her. I mean, I think I'm okay. But she's an animal. I mean, there are absolutely lifts, not pound for pound, literal lifts that I'm pretty sure she jerks more than me. I mean, and I weigh 240. Yeah. I mean, we were testing some of the workouts the other day, and she rode 60 calories faster than I did at the end of the workout because I was just gassed out. Yeah. We were doing single arm dumbbell snatches after we got off the assault bike. She's doing it with 55 pounds, which most girls have a hard time picking up. She's repping it out.
Is she heavier?
No, she's jacked. She's 5'10" and jacked.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, she's nuts, and she's gonna carry the team. Let's put it that way. She's going to carry us.
Yeah, and why are you trying to get leaner? That's my question, because you're getting lean.
Because one of the workouts, I was just telling Mark this, one of the workouts opens with you got to do 10 ring muscle ups to start the workout. So 3, 2, 1, go, you got to do 10. She'll bang out 7. I'm going to have to do 10. There's not a lot of guys that weigh 240 that are swinging from rings. Like the guy that I was talking about that's going into the SEALs. Yeah. He'll do 19 in a minute. Jeez. I'm gonna struggle to get 10, so I'm in under a minute. So, yeah, that's what I'm getting ready for right now.
That makes sense. Okay.
Trying to keep that body weight down so you're not so damn heavy.
Trying to, man. I mean, it's funny, right? It's funny the reasons that people cut weight. Like you were trying to cut weight to do your bench.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that was fun to watch. I'm trying to cut weight because I just don't think, when you're 240 and you're hanging from stuff, man, I get my tendons and my elbows and everything just starts pop and crack.
Makes a huge difference. Dude, a couple pounds.
Unreal, right? I mean, obviously it makes a huge difference when you're benching and stuff like that too. You feel 10-pound difference?
Yeah.
That kind of thing?
Yeah. When you're lifting heavy like that, yeah, it makes a huge difference. Yeah. I mean, just being bloated, it helps a lot. Just having a little extra body weight on you can help a lot. I mean, you can also just be jacked too, right? But that's harder. And then at my age, it's harder to it's harder just to be thick. So it helps to have some carbohydrates, or it helps to get a little puffy for a competition.
Yeah, I think fueling for workouts like that is really challenging when you're going all day and you're going back to back to back to back to back.
It's an all-day event, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, so you do a workout, and the workout might only be 15 minutes, but then you got a little bit of a break, and you're just trying to roll out, stay warm, get some sodium back in you, get a little, glucose, fructose kind of thing going, and just kind of get ready to go. And fueling for that's a real challenge.
We were talking about some meat, and you're a cook, and let's give some people advice on what's some great ways we can prepare our food. You were giving me some tips on the crock pot, and I pour bone broth in there, and you say, hey, another option is just to put the meat in the crock pot by itself, and the juices will draw out of it, and it'll be real juicy, and it'll taste really good without even putting any liquids in there, right?
Yeah. So I think like the crock pot deal, one of the ways I would cook it is I would take all the vegetables. You can put them in a pan, put them on a sheet pan, roast them off, get a little color on them. While you're roasting them off, take whatever you're tossing in the crock pot, put it on the grill, and just salt and pepper, and just kind of sear it off. When those two things are done, the kind of the roasted veggies come out, and the big roast comes off the grill. Put the roasted veggies on bottom in your crock pot, and drop the kind of seared off meat.
Sounds like we're going to start a crock pot restaurant.
Yeah. put the roasted meat on top and just cover it. And a lot of that kind of convection steam will help kind of break that meat down, pull some of the moisture out, and it'll start to cook in some of its own juice. That's really good.
That's just for convenience, by the way. That's not the most optimal way to cook a steak.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite ways to prepare a steak, and what's some of your favorite cuts?
I am a ribeye guy. I haven't eaten a ribeye in so long because of the fat. Because it's fat. Yeah, I wish.
It's like a giant stick of butter.
It is
with some protein mixed in.
We were talking to our friend last night when we were at dinner, and he was like, "How many calories do you think are in?" Because I immediately get labeled as the macro guy at the table. He's like, "How many calories do you think are in that?" I'm like, "You ate a 32-ounce T-bone. I don't know, probably 2,200 or something." He's like, "No way." I'm like, "Dude, steaks like fatty cuts like that are like 1-to-1." Protein to fat. I like ribeyes a lot. The offcuts of meat that I like a lot, I do like flat iron steaks. I like steaks that are a little bit farther away from some of the inner organs. I think sometimes the closer to the organs you get, the cut gets, it starts to taste a little bit metallic and almost irony. I think stuff like a hanger steak and skirt steak, sometimes it can almost taste like a little bit of that blood you can kind of taste some of that, which I'm not a huge fan of. I don't mind connective tissue, like you would see, like kind of eating some of that collagen and having a little bit of that chew is nice. I think skirt steak's great on the grill. Each cut, I think, has an optimal preparation, to be clear. I think that like multi-cut steaks, like we were talking last night, I think T-bones are great, and there's a lot of deals on them all the time, but I think it's really hard to nail a good temperature on it because you're essentially trying to cook two different cuts of meat at the same temperature, right? You're trying to cook a New York and a tenderloin essentially at the same temperature, and that's really hard to do. So I like ribeyes in a pan with some butter. I like skirt steaks on the grill. Like a fillet, I'd probably reverse sear. So I'd probably cook it really, really low in the oven, and then pull it out and then finish it on the pan.
Oh.
I don't
think I've ever tried that.
That's really easy. It's really fun. It's kind of like hillbilly.
Cook it really low in the oven.
Yeah, so just
sear it.
Yeah, so just take the steak, season it up, put it on a resting grate on top of a sheet tray, and pop it in the oven. And
that sounds fucking good.
Bro, I feel like such a peasant. I just stick my ribeye in the air fryer every single day.
Well, that's awesome.
But the air fryer is great, though.
I was literally just gonna say, but when we're at the house and we're cooking 6-7 ribeyes a day, it's air fried.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I don't feel so bad.
I feel like a peasant.
Makes carnivore pretty easy.
Yeah,
You can just rack up a couple of steaks and then
Quick
every
air
9
fryer is no
minutes.
joke.
Quick steak hack though. Next time you go to knock some out in your air fryer, take your steak, toss it on a paper towel, season it liberally with more salt than you think you should.
Okay.
Let it sit there, just chill. Go do something else, prep some other stuff, come back, and when you look at the steak, when the top of the steak looks like it's pooling with water, that is a good sign. What's happening is a lot of the moisture is getting pulled from the inside of the steak to the top. And so then what happens is the moisture hits the salt on top and kind of forms this brine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And then if you let it sit a little bit longer, that pooling water will actually dissipate, but it's not like evaporating. It's going to suck back kind of into the meat. So you're kind of getting this like speed brine, and you do that on both sides of the steak, then pop it in the air fryer.
Yeah.
Game change.
That's where we want to be.
That's tonight.
Game change.
That's
And
tonight.
also, this is like just some like old school.
That's a power bite right there.
Yeah. This is some old school like chefy chef in me that is like, it's so funny sometimes when I tell people like, yeah, I'm a chef, and they look at me they're like, yeah, freaking, yeah, right.
Yeah, never trust a chef that's not fat, right?
Yeah. I never grill or see, like I always finish with pepper.
Okay.
So because I think pepper can take on a little bit of a burnt characteristic. So cook everything and then do fresh cracked pepper on top. Never crack pepper and then throw it on the steak or on the grill. That's how I roll. Other cuts of meat, I think that a lot of people are the same way that I think people are scared of like liver and kidney and that kind of thing. I think some people can be afraid of off cuts of meat, stuff like neck and shin and
Cheeks.
Yeah, all that
Things
stuff
like that,
can be super tender, man. Some of the best, like oxtail. Like, dude, if
Oxtail's
you ever been
amazing.
you ever been to a really good restaurant and they serve oxtail? That is like, I mean, I have received boxes of oxtail in our restaurants and cooked them. I mean, it is literally a tail cut up, and it's delicious.
It sounds odd,
It does sound odd.
but it does taste good. I've had it before.
It's unreal. It tastes like braised short rib,
Yeah.
except for more tender.
I grew up on oxtail. That was like a staple in my house.
It's awesome, right?
Yeah.
Short ribs are like, short ribs of any kind, whether it's like Kalbi style where they're kind of cut down the side or whether they're, bone in, kind of big, thick pieces. I think short ribs are amazing. I think those are great to braise. Braising meaning when you're cooking it low and slow, kind of covered in a pan, similar to a crock pot but in an oven. I also, I think ground beef is really good.
Yeah, I do too.
I'll do anything with, I'll ground beef in a pan, throw some mustard on there and just kind of burn it a little bit.
Let's go in on this because I feel like a lot of people eat ground beef and you're the guy to talk to. So
Yeah.
like, what are your best simple ways of making ground beef tasty?
Or not even simple. It's just
I like
make it
it.
really good. I
I
don't
like
care.
the mustard seed
Yeah.
right
The
there.
mustard seed, I've never heard of that before.
Mustard fried.
Hey, so
never.
so
In
like
and out all day.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I just take that ground beef and toss it in your pan, like what I'm talking about with the mustard. Toss it in your pan, and kind of how like one side of it will kind of start to get brown and the top still looks like it's undercooked. Hit it with some mustard and then flip it over and kind of toss it in. That's really tasty. Other ways I like to cook, I do like a little blend of it's not anything like mind altering, but I do like granulated garlic, granulated onion, paprika, cayenne, salt, pepper, mustard powder. I think that's really nice. If you add cumin into it, that'll make it taste a little bit like taco seasoning. I think that's pretty tasty. Okay. I like all that stuff. Other ways for ground beef to taste really good. Really the only way you can cook ground beef is in a pan.
Yeah.
I'm not a guy that adds extra fat to ground beef. I just don't think you need to, and that isn't a dietary preference. I just think anytime you got beef cooking in beef fat, I think that's pretty tasty.
Yeah.
I would cook a fillet in tallow all day, but that I think Epic makes their beef tallow.
Yeah, it's really good.
Use that like butter on that stuff. It's good.
What about how do we know our meat's done? How do we know we got it prepared the right way? Like you just push your finger on it type of deal. Like,
so, well done, or I'm sorry, well done, medium, or medium well, medium rare.
So he's pointing to the chunky tissue that's like underneath your thumb.
So you go like
thumb muscle,
go like this, and you touch that. That's well done.
Yep.
That's mid well. That's medium. That's rare.
Got it. And then he went from his pinky all the way to his index finger with the fingers connected. And as you get closer to your index finger, the tissue, the muscle, your thumb loosens up. And that's kind of the feel that you want.
Yeah, I think that a general rule is you never want to stab or cut into your whole meat when you're cooking it. Always let
you have to let it sit for a little while too, which is hard to do.
It's the hardest thing to do, especially when you're a fat guy. Like the perfect like the restaurants like the we'll go get steaks at.
It doesn't
matter
as much with a burger, but a steak it really does matter a lot, right?
So at one of my restaurants, we used to rest the steaks. This is going to sound really well. Back then, it probably would have sounded really gross. Now it's going to sound really delicious. We would have they're called ninth pans. We'd have a ninth pan of melted clarified butter. And most people rest steaks just like on a tray under heat lamp.
Oh,
we would actually take the steaks and we would rest them inside warm butter. So they would just sit there for like 3 minutes, and then we'd pull them out, and then we would season them with rock salt, and then we would slice them.
Wow.
In a perfect world, you most likely would rest the steak as long as it's cooked. That's usually a good rule of thumb. So if it takes 10 minutes to cook the steak, Sometimes you can tent it, meaning like take some foil and just kind of put it over there a little bit, not too tight because you don't want it to keep cooking. But 10-minute cook, 10-minute rest. Usually the best rule of thumb. But
that's when you got to go do your 10-minute walk.
yeah, exactly. Admittedly, I can't tell you the last time I properly rested a steak then, though, So,
you always have to keep crunching on it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What about something to throw on the burger, like cheese or something? You got like some favorite cheeses or favorite things that you throw on there? Spice her up a little bit?
Yeah, I'm so simple, man. I'm like the most boring chef.
That's okay.
But my favorite cheese on a burger. Well, I tell you, this is the fat guy in me. I put peanut butter on a burger.
Wow, I've never tried that.
I've
I've heard of that before, but I've never tried it.
Put peanut butter on a burger. Change your life. Peanut butter and bananas.
I'll do it right now.
Peanut butter, bananas. What else? The patty.
Patty and some cheese. We ran that special at Hopdoddy. It's called the Elvis Burger. We ran that. Peanut butter on a burger is pretty out there. It's pretty delicious.
I'm gonna do that.
You'd be
I
surprised.
mean, peanut butter is delicious.
Yeah,
and so are
yeah.
hamburgers, so it makes sense.
You'd actually probably be surprised how good. You gotta find the right one. I wouldn't go get like Smucker's
Peanut butter burger.
I wouldn't get like Smucker's raspberry, but jam actually is not bad on a burger. You get like some jam with a little arugula and like some mayo. It's actually probably that'd be really tasty. I like if I took a leaner cut of beef, like if I had a bison burger or I had something some really like lean ground beef. Sometimes I'd like to kind of round that out with like either a really briny cheese or a really fatty cheese. So like I'd do brie. Brie would be really nice on that. I mean, I think that's a pretty common kind of combination.
Dude, you should make a cookbook, man.
Yeah, I'm not that good, but I wish. Make a meathead cookbook.
Yeah, dude.
All the recipes for meatheads. Yeah, I like the most crazy thing I think I'd put on a burger.
Sounds like peanut butter.
Yeah, peanut butter is pretty good, man.
I've never even heard of that until now. That's
you're gonna make a peanut butter burger tomorrow, and you're gonna tag me in it, and you're gonna be like mind blown.
And then you see me a few weeks later, I'm 15 pounds overweight.
Yeah, Matt just put peanut butter on my burger.
What's up with aged meats? What's up with that?
I think there's a lot of debates out there. There's how there's like Tennessee barbecue and there's Texas barbecue, and those guys like viciously hate each other kind of thing. One place uses smoke, one place uses mustard, one place uses, wet rub, dry rub. Kind of the same thing with aged meat. So aged meat, there's, wet aging and dry aging. I'm a wet age guy. I think the flavor is a little bit better. Dry aging, you're basically just trying to create a more condensed meat flavor. And it kind of makes sense, right? If the steak starts out this big and you dry age it, it's going to start to shrink. And then you're going to have to cut off some of the outside of it. So you're going to get this really, really dense, really, 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 really meaty flavor that is going to result in a lot of moisture being pulled out. But when you cook it, it's going to be a little bit more tender. You have to be really careful not to overcook dry aged meat, obviously. Bang for your buck. Is it worth it? If you're indulging, probably, maybe. But, I mean, in my book, I'd rather eat, again, I'm a volume guy, I guess. I'd rather eat, 4 good ribeyes than, one really crazy dry-aged one. I think they're, don't get me wrong, though, I think they're good. I would probably only eat a dry-aged ribeye, though. Just me.
Right.
Because of the fat that's in there, it'll cook up a little bit nicer.
And it just kind of tastes old, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it has a tiny bit of that.
There's a window on dry aging too, right? And everybody's flavor profile there is a little bit different. Where if all 3 of us were to just run a control experiment of like, hey, I'm going to dry age this beef, you're going to dry age this beef, and we're all going to stop dry aging it at a certain point based on our flavor profile, it would come out very different. So the way that where I take the dry age to might be drastically different than where you take it to. So sometimes it's kind of a disappointment. You go to a really, really nice restaurant and you're like, oh God, I just got the $150 dry aged tomahawk. And you're like, it was okay. It was good. I don't know. I think that, but sometimes you hit it and it's just right. And you're like, it's sweeter than you. You're just like, that's unbelievable.
What's it like tasting all these foods? Because I don't know if that's part of your job now.
Yeah.
But it's probably part of your job at some point at least.
Yeah. No. Chris was,
I can't have any more fat.
Chris was, exactly. Chris was at a taste. Oh, there it is. There's the Elvis burger right there.
Oh, yeah.
Got peanut butter, IPA peanut butter on there, actually. We took beer and whipped it.
Have you had a peanut butter burger?
No. I didn't know that was
You haven't even hooked him up?
Yeah,
Hey,
you can't hook your brother up.
He's only been to Austin a couple times to come have Hopdoddy, but Chris, yeah,
It's got an egg on it too, or what?
no, that's it's just
It's a banana.
bananas and mayonnaise on the
okay.
bottom. Yeah.
Dude, that's like a sundae and a burger all rolled into one.
Life changing right there. Tasting all the meat's pretty fun. It's pretty cool. We get to meet we get to meet a lot of different vendors. Right now we're just, you know, we're happy with our vendors, but we're always tasting and looking at different stuff. Bacon's actually crazy right now. I know this is like a ruminant animal crowd around here, but there's a swine flu in China that took out, to give you perspective, they are putting down more hogs in China than we have in the United States.
Wow.
So if you guys like bacon, I'd start buying it and freezing it now, because
Bacon shortage.
I'm not joking.
How about pork belly?
Pork belly and bacon are the same thing.
Yeah.
There's gonna be huge price spikes on that.
I have a question for you, actually, Andrew. Have you heard of like? There's something I heard a few months ago where the oversight of pork or whatever those products, it's going to be less stringent, right? Have you heard about that or no?
No, but what's it
Okay, maybe
referring
I'm
to?
tripping. Do you know what I'm talking about right now? You know what?
Wait,
Let's just ignore it.
so they're just they're
Give me some Google search
it's
terms
like
I could find.
they're not
Yeah.
they're not going to be looking into the humanity behind it, or kind of the feeding of it as much.
Not just the feeding. It's like the
Sustainability?
let's just say that like the pork or the bacon or the pork that you might get might not be as safe. Let's just say to eat. I'm not sure what that is though, because it was a few months ago and I can't remember it.
I wonder if this has anything to do with the same thing that we're talking
swine flu,
about.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
it does.
I'm wondering if that like you need to be more careful with that now.
Talking about dry aging, actually, and now that we're kind of parlaying this into pork, what I will tell you is I would probably go out of my way for like really, really, really designer pork more than I would go out of my way for designer beef. And I don't really even like pork that much.
What's designer beef?
I mean,
Or pork?
but you know what I'm saying? Like, instead of dry
You mean
aged,
like high end?
I'm saying like there's this company back, I think they're based out of Oregon, that we used to deal with at one of my restaurants, Tails and Trotters. And it was basically like, if you imagine like the Wagyu of pork, the last like 8 weeks they're alive, they like only feed them like macadamia nuts. And this pork is just insane, right? So you get the pork belly from it, and the fat cap's like this big.
Oh, God.
And sometimes with bacon and pork belly, like you're talking about, it really depends on,
Macadamia nuts are expensive.
right? That's why that's why the restaurant isn't there anymore, man. Imagine buying the pork.
Yeah, shit.
So this is kind of where the butchery comes in, because these guys would sell you the bacon and they almost wouldn't even care about the ribs. Because think about it, there's a limited amount of meat on an animal. So if you cut too deep into one muscle to make another muscle bigger, you're kind of, like if you cut too much into the rib meat to get yourself more pork belly, yeah, this stuff's just insane. So like this kind of
That looks really good.
this kind of pork's insane. Or like mangalitsa, if you guys ever come across that. Any of this, or hazelnut. I said macnut. Oh, it's hazelnut. So pork like that, or really, really like Duroc Farms or like heritage pork. I think some of that stuff is you get a more nuanced kind of bang for your buck flavor when you go for something really high end. The other thing that's really cool about pork is you can impart a little bit more flavor into it, meaning like you can brine it and do a little bit more to it than you can a steak a lot of times.
What's the deal with like no nitrates? When some of the bacon has like no nitrates and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really. I don't really worry about too much of that in the kind of the commodity world that we play in.
It cooks easier when it has the nitrates in it. It seems like it has a little more pop.
Yeah,
It probably lasts a lot longer. That's probably the reason for the nitrates, right?
yeah, it's a cure. It's all that stuff's just to kind of cure it. So there's that cured bacon, uncured bacon, and it's kind of the similar camp, right? Do you cure it? Do you smoke it? The stuff with that you just have to watch out for sometimes is the ratios, but a lot of times you'll ruin the bacon before you'll make somebody sick with nitrates and that kind of thing.
Right.
So, I've never really, we've made our own bacon many a times, and it's really, really tasty. I think it's cool when you make your own bacon, you can control the thickness of the cut.
Yeah.
So you can get them like, called like lardons. You can make big kind of thick hunks of it.
Gives you a lardon.
Yeah. Eat this bacon, it'll give you a lardon.
Yeah. How do we make bacon steak? Remember that stuff, Mark?
Yeah, that was at what's the name of that restaurant?
It's got to be Morton's, right?
Morton's, there you
Yeah.
go. Yeah, bacon steaks. Those were good. It's basically just pork belly, I believe.
Yeah.
Big old giant thick cut of bacon.
Man,
So
I
we
love
would,
pork belly.
yeah. So we would take pork belly. We would take
It's really good.
we would take pork belly like this, and we would take a dish, and we would like a pan, and we would submerge it in pork stock, and we would cover the top of the pan, and we would braise it. So you'd have the pork belly would be the pan's up here, the pork belly's right here. So this part right here would get braised really tender like pulled pork, and this part would not. And we'd braise it for about 2 hours, and we would pull the kind of the covering off, and we would expose that top fat cap, and it'd get really crispy and crunchy. We'd pull it out of there, and we'd plate it like a pork belly steak. You'd have the top that would be like literal like chicharron crunchy, and then as you kind of bite into it, it'd be like pulled pork tender, like this steaky, just deliciousness. That was pretty good,
Dude.
It does sound really good.
Hey, so Chris and I talked about this a while ago. We need to get our boy Gavin up here, and we just need to throw down.
Yeah.
We just need to throw down at Super Training. Just have me and Gavin just start
that'd be
cooking
awesome.
and do a little cookout. Gavin, if you're listening, come up and visit. Let's cook.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, so that's that.
My monster mash looks like bullshit now.
I feel like all the food I cook now is just like not
Yeah.
up to par.
Is there a way to make spruce up monster mash that you guys use?
I'd take all Stan's meals off the truck and just eat them, and I think they're friggin'
These guys love them.
I think they're friggin' delicious.
Yeah,
But
I thought they did a good job too.
yeah, but two things that I'll add into them every now and again. This goes back to the hyperpalatability and then kind of knowing your macros and that kind of thing. For a while, Cocoa Secret makes these coconut aminos. It's basically like soy sauce, but it's without soy and it's gluten free. Friggin' delicious, man. Unreal. So I'll put Cocoa Secret on there sometimes. There's not a huge caloric kind of load to it. I think there's like 10 calories per tablespoon or something like that. They have a teriyaki sauce that's pretty good. That's like 60 calories or something like that. I like the Green Valley organic sour cream. Sometimes I'll throw that on there. But again, you start throwing a couple tablespoons of that, it's got some fat in it. Next thing you know, you got 130 extra calories on there. And I'm like, yeah, I'd rather eat the 2 pints of blueberries, So those make Monster Mash taste really good. I honestly just salt the hell out of it, And then that kind of just makes it so, you don't overeat.
Stan did a good job with that. It's basically just rice, ground beef, or bison, and some beef tallow, I think, and then bone broth, I think, right?
Yeah, he soaks the rice in bone broth. There's already Himalayan salt in there, I think. All the veggies are cooked in that. Have you tried the actual vertical meals?
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
I had the most recent one I had was with sweet potato.
Yeah.
And I couldn't understand what I was eating because I'm like, oh, this tastes way better than what my normal just meat and rice. But
sweet potato and carrots sometimes he throws in there. Even it just depends on. He's got a lot of different versions.
It was like a really good texture thing too. It was a little different.
That Yukon Gold.
Yeah, he turned me on to the Yukon Gold ones, man. You get the bison with the Yukon Gold. I mean, maybe it's just because I've been in maybe it's because I've been in deprivation from flavors like that for so long, but. Man, I took a bite of that. I thought I was eating French fries. I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever had. The Yukon Gold one's really good.
Yeah.
He does the world's strongest mash one that's like 1,200 calorie, 2 bins,
Yeah, I mean, I got to eat a lot of calories to even try and maintain this body weight.
I like
1,000 calorie lunch.
But the other thing, it's cool, if you make your own mash, you can kind of make it as big or as small as you want. You can, and Stan, in efforts to make it, render it more digestible, he puts bone broth in there, and there's some beef tallow, so you can kind of control what's going in there a little bit better. Sometimes I'll use like 96.4 ground beef that's got a little bit less fat, a little bit more protein. Like a pound of this stuff's like 100 grams of protein. It's like 12 grams of fat, 100 grams of protein. 560 calories. So you do that, a couple 100 grams of rice, and it's delicious.
Yeah, we cooked it with bell peppers last night.
Yeah,
add something different because I've been having Monster Mash so much. It's just
little
let's
flavor,
change it up.
little palate fatigue.
A little bit, yeah. I mean,
You've been
so
doing
much.
what? You've been doing egg yolks and oatmeal and stuff like that.
I've been putting. I've done stuff like that before too, but I've been doing a lot of egg yolks lately.
Yeah,
just putting them right on, like using it like butter. Putting it on like ground beef and putting it on steaks and throwing it in my it looks really disgusting when you throw it in like crock pot meat, but it fucking tastes awesome.
Danny Vega has been doing that for a while, just taking a hot bowl of meat and then just cracking a couple of yolks
Oh,
in there
yeah,
and just
yeah.
kind of swirling it up. And I
Yeah.
think it kind of gets like,
It cooks, yeah.
kind of cooks itself and kind of
Right.
coagulates and makes a
Right.
little sauce. That looks kind of tasty.
The egg whites aren't great when they're like that because they're not all the way cooked.
Yeah.
But the yolks are fucking delicious.
Yeah. Get some
Really
big ass like duck yolks or something like that. And
Do you
Yeah.
separate the yolks?
Do I?
Yeah.
Oh, sometimes, yeah. Sometimes I just heave ho the egg white.
Okay.
You know, I feel bad about doing it. I'm like, like there's protein like literally down the drain.
this is going. See ya.
But from having Saladino on the podcast, and he was saying you can eat the whole egg raw.
Mhm.
He just said it doesn't really taste very good. And then he also just mentioned that I guess the egg white can like rob your body of biotin or something like that. So I was just like, it doesn't taste good, and it's
See ya.
taking vitamins away from me. So fuck it.
You know what's funny is when we make fresh pasta, when we use eggs, we literally just treat egg whites like water.
Yeah.
So instead of like when you make sheeted pasta, when you make or rolled pasta, like any noodle, a really good bite is typically just egg yolk and flour. But when you make like ravioli or agnolotti or cappelletti or any of that stuff, you gotta have a little bit more pliability of the dough. So some people will put water in. We'll just start using egg. We'll just use egg whites. So we use egg whites in replace with water because it kind of adds a little bit more of that elasticity to the dough.
It's like it tastes better too.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you're like, it's just like, fucking, it's like water. It's like, it's kind of how we use it in cooking. It's like,
Yeah.
it's just basically like that. But I eat a ton of egg whites. Obviously, I wish I could eat whole yolk. Maybe I'll start eating them now, and I'll start sleeping better.
Man. Now I remember when I was doing low fat to get ready for a show, like when I started getting leaner and low fat, my libido tanked. Everything just sucked. I can't do low fat and feel good. Like, and I've noticed I don't know the scientific reason for it, but I've noticed a trend on athletes that end up they're having to diet down and you lower their fat, especially on men. It really starts to affect them when they get into like the 50-40 range.
Yeah.
So I just like, if they have to have carbs, I'll just decrease the carbs instead and keep the fats like maybe around 70 or whatever, and just take that hit to the carbs instead, and their mood, everything just feels much better.
Yeah, I probably need to swap that up a little bit. Admittedly, I might be dangerously low.
Or you could just shift days. Like, you could do days where you have slightly lower carbs and increase that fat, but keep the same calorie intake.
That's what Mark was saying. Just kind of have a couple days where you just kind of play with it a little bit and move it around. I know that low fat's really bad. Going that low is like not bad, but I guess it has some serious complications for women.
Yeah.
When if they get into like that amount of grams for their body weight, it can be pretty rough.
Yeah.
But it's not like it's not rough for me. So maybe I need to change something up.
So you're in Seattle, right?
Yeah.
You're still going to school, stuff like that.
Yeah, I just got into grad school for construction management. Finished up my bachelor's degree in landscape architecture and did a minor in architecture.
Congrats.
Yeah, thanks. It's been a lot of
That's
fun.
awesome.
I started working as an apprentice carpenter for a high-end contractor and just to get some field experience. Honestly, just trying to kind of emulate what he did, kind of learn the process from the beginning, hands-on, and hopefully moving towards the office side of things to learn the structure of management. And he echoes this a lot to me too, is becoming a great manager. You have to learn that from somewhere. So that's just kind of what I'm trying to do. And being a leader is something that, I was like a captain in football and that stuff, and I feel like I'm a natural leader in a lot of ways, but it's something that I definitely need a lot of development in. But yeah, that's what I'm kind of up to.
Gotta be a savage to wake up at 5 every morning and go work out and then go put construction bags on and swing a hammer all day and then go sit in a classroom.
Did you mention to me that you work with your dad?
Well, we're doing some side projects just on our property, doing some cabin
But
work.
he's been in the construction business for
40 years.
basically.
Yeah.
He can't even get in the union at the age of our dad entered. Our dad's, boots on every day for 40 years in Seattle. Concrete guy. Just been pouring concrete and building suspension bridges our whole life.
Yeah, heavy civil construction is pretty brutal, especially what it's kind of done to his body. He just got out of hip replacement, and he's been using Mind Bullet as a pain
awesome.
management.
Chris,
That's great.
When Chris was down in Austin, we had a little consult with my dad Chris was like, here's what you're gonna need to do. Here's what's gonna happen. Da, da, da,
Oh,
da.
that's cool.
And he's like, yeah, man. He's like, I'll send you home with some Mind Bullet. My dad just swears by it. He loves
that's
it.
great.
He loves it.
great.
He's
Does
like he's like a poster child for it. He's like, I want to fly Chris up. Come hang out. I'm like, Dad, I don't think Chris is gonna come hang out with you, dude. It's like,
That's great.
but yeah, he loves it. He says 3 or 4 of them in the morning, and he's just like, 4 days off of hip surgery, just walking around, hanging out, feeling good.
Wow.
Yeah, man, we were doing demo the day before I
Yeah.
came up here, and he's just rocking some Mind Bullet out there, cutting stuff up.
That's
And
how the guy how the guy
we were-
rolls, man.
my
That's
sister
great.
and I were, we were tearing apart this roof, and my dad's out there picking up the cedar shaker and wheelbarrows, and he just got a hip replacement done.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
he's a beast.
Is he still lifting too?
He's big into yoga.
He's a big yoga guy,
Big
but
yoga guy.
Working on his movement. There you go.
yeah, I mean he's been doing years and years of lifting. I think he just is like me, and he just wants to do things he enjoys.
Right.
Yeah, I think he might have just gotten sick of training.
I bet.
Like I think he just trained and trained and trained, and I think he rode himself pretty hard when he was training for marathons and stuff like that.
Mm.
And I think he just got to the point where nothing really felt good. I think his body kind of started to go on him a little bit, and he did. I think he tore his rotator cuff.
Shit.
No surgery, just kind of like rehabbed it. Had a hip replacement. But I mean, the guy's 60 years old. He still has handstand push-ups with a torn rotator cuff.
Yeah, I mean, I go
So,
home like,
yeah,
hey, Dad,
I mean,
man.
he's still kind of a savage. Don't get me wrong,
Oh,
but
yeah.
he doesn't like. He's not going to go bang a bunch of plates around in the gym anymore. But I mean, there was a time for sure.
Does your mom still lift?
Every day,
Oh, that's
every,
cool.
still has clients?
every time we try to shit talk our mom for not doing something, she'll just look at us and be like, "Hey, I've been doing this every day for 30 years, so why don't you just back up?" Like, all right, whatever you want, Mom. She's a savage.
Puts you in your place.
Yeah,
yeah.
she's the original lifter in the family for sure.
How you guys gonna reunite? You guys got to get back together. Sounds like you guys are super close.
Got to get him to come down to Austin, but he's probably not going to. I'll probably.
Well,
We'll figure
I've got a
something out.
couple of things going on. It's not like I'm exactly free every day. I've got grad school and work, and I'm working on some side projects and
Yeah.
trying to study abroad. But I'm also, trying to keep up with this guy in the gym so I don't look like a fool,
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get down there in August and make some time to do some more brother time. I think we try and do either he comes up to Washington or I go down once a month, or we meet up in California and have some fun
cool.
together. So
Yeah, last time we met up, I think we were in LA. We try to get together and train and work out and do that kind of stuff. It's all good though.
Yeah, that's great.
Just like you and your brother.
Yeah.
You guys are lucky you get to train every day.
Any other siblings?
We got a sister.
yeah,
Our sister, when we did Chris's podcast, she was extraordinarily disgruntled that we didn't mention her. And this is a
She was
hey,
pissed.
this is a true story. This is a
She
true
gonna beat you guys up.
Hey, this is a true story. So we have a middle sister. We're on a family chat, and she goes, "Hey, great job on the podcast. Loved every minute of it. Love the fact that you guys didn't mention me." and my response in our family group text was, "We only mention people on podcasts that can back squat their body weight." And no exaggeration, my sister walked out to the gym that we have at our house, loaded the bar up with with
Well, we were FaceTiming my brother in, and I was like, Kelby, we got to go do this, or we can't mention you. And she was like, let's go. We go out there, and she probably weighs like 130 something. She's throwing plates.
She threw on 135,
no
and
warm-up.
no warm up, and
No
just hit
warm
it.
up, just boom.
So good
Knocked
for
it
her.
out.
So Kelby, we love you. Hope you're listening. Good job squatting your
Now
body
she
weight.
gets mentioned
Yeah,
on podcasts.
now you get mentioned on podcasts. Yeah, she's awesome. She trains every day too. She Jack programs for her every day, and she does like kind of a little. It's like it's almost
CrossFit modules.
it's like boot. Yeah, it's like CrossFit boot camp.
Well, she loves to go hard. She loves a good challenge, and she's just like me. She wants to enjoy the thing she's doing, or she's not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So we take whatever her favorite exercise are, program those up into some terrible numbers, and set her loose, and she has a good time with it. So
I don't like doing the things that I like to. I only like to do the things I suck
so
at.
he's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
But
yeah, we got another sister.
Matt said you've been a huge fan of mine for a long time. You got any questions now that we're here?
Yeah,
face
man.
To face? What you got?
dude, questions on
When-
training. Man.
How big of a disappointment am I in person? Just let everybody know.
That's not a.
He told
true-
me. He told me a while ago. He said he was following you when.
I'm a lot shorter in person, right?
He said he was following you, and your website used to be howmuchyoubench.net.
That's right. Yeah. How much you bench?
How much you bench.net? I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know, man.
Long way back.
my powerlifting thing, I just blew myself up. But what kept me really
Did you ever
interested?
compete? You ever get on the platform?
No, I was training for it, and I hurt myself in prep for it, and got
Shit.
super discouraged. But what really kept me interested in you is, how mobile you are in the space, and how encouraging you are to people, and to just keep going after things, and to do little things every day, and you don't have to, deadlift 600 pounds, to be in the
Right.
gym. I mean, your message is great, and I've loved it the whole time. Just get in the gym, put in the work, and I've loved your products.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
The slingshot helped me accomplish my goal of benching 405, and now my goal is to get off the flat bench, hit 405, and do a freestanding handstand push-up. That's like the next thing I want to do.
Sick.
In terms of questions for you, I don't know. I mean, I'd love to emulate kind of what you do. If I come to the gym and own a gym and do that for a lifestyle, that would be probably the coolest thing ever,
Yeah.
in my opinion. I mean,
Having a gym it's fun. Having this environment. It's fun to come to work every day. It's fun to come into this building every day, and this is an unconventional style of gym since it's like free and everything. So it's definitely different. The business model is to like lose money, right? That's definitely a little different, but it's great. Having people here that want to help out. People here have common goals. Everybody here wants. No one's here like being all grumpy and not helping each other out. And the men and women that train here might look a certain way, but the second you ask them a question, they'll pop right into wanting to help you out. So it's really cool from that perspective. And I think any gym owner, especially that owns like a box gym or kind of a smaller gym, probably has a similar feel. You mentioned, Matt, feeling like just a good connection with all the people that work here, because everyone's like right on top of you guys when you walked in and stuff. And
man, it's contageous.
Yeah, why not be that way?
Just
Why
a
not be
feel-good
positive? Why
environment.
not be fun?
I think that's what makes a gym. Like the gym that I train at back home, CrossFit Jakaru. I mean, I traveled when we started opening these restaurants. I traveled 185 days one year. 185 days.
Yeah.
That's insane.
It's
And
a lot, yeah.
so the reason I started CrossFit was because I basically started following CrossFit.com. Then when I got off the road after we kind of got done with this crazy growth, I was like, I got to join a gym. Man, if I never did another CrossFit workout for the rest of my life, I would probably still go to the gym that I go to, because the community of people there, the coaches, the people we get to interact with every day, it actually reminds me a lot of here.
That's cool.
Just how amazing everybody's just super genuine. The community's amazing. You can just tell like everybody out there respects each other. They take good care of each other. Everybody seems like they look out for one another. There's a general care for things. That's exactly how our community is back in Austin. I mean, there's so many people that our gym's done a really good job back home of. They have a lot of notoriety. It's a very competitive gym, so a lot of people come to drop in and take class there. But I think what most people find isn't that the athletes there are so remarkable or that the programming is so over the top. It's just that the people there are really genuine. The people there really care. And then they find a community of people that just, want to eat good, look good, and be jacked and, train hard. And then it's all of a sudden it's all kind of fun, So
It's great.
it's kind of like here.
Cool.
Love it here.
Anything else, Andrew?
Really quick, In and Out, it's like a religion for me.
Yeah.
And people know that, so they see that I'm like vulnerable
He's got
at
French
times.
fry questions, doesn't he?
Exactly.
Got to eat them when they're hot or they're done.
Well,
Yep.
people like
Yeah.
That's true.
it's like it's become like the cool thing to bag on In and Out, especially right in front of me. But you had said every other restaurant tries to buy the potatoes that they have like a monopoly on, right?
I want to be really clear. I work for Hopdoddy Burger Bar out of Austin, Texas.
Right. Which I do love, by the way.
Okay. I would probably get a Hopdoddy tattoo if I could. I love Hopdoddy. But let me be explicitly clear. I have been in the fine dining industry. I've been in the casual dining industry. I've been in the fast casual industry. I've been in the cocktail bar industry. In-N-Out Burger is an upper echelon, pinnacle, glistening example of excellence in regard to restaurant operations. Everything that they do, from their design to the psychological studies that go on for how people enter their building, how they go into the queuing line, where they wait, where they pick their food up, the minimalist approach that they have. They stay in their lane, they do what they do, and they execute every single day. They pay their people really well. They give their employees more minimum wage. They give their employees paid time off, 401ks.
Andrew's gonna go work there. Andrew's like, yeah.
They have 4 things on the menu. They have 3 flavors of shakes. Their places are built right. Their places are built easy to clean. I mean, if you look in their kitchen, it's like that's where the napkin goes. That's where the French fry goes. That's the bin that the French fry bin comes out of and goes into there. I mean, everything is a science in there. You can watch their kitchen ramp up as they get busier. Dudes will start punching fries. That's not for show. That's because they want their product that fresh. Like you're in a drive-in and you're seeing dudes punching fries. I mean, it's a symphony in there. I think that they are among the best operators in the business. They do what they do. They don't change. 2 days ago was National ice cream day.
Yeah.
Did every other burger restaurant and burger chain around advertising the hell out of, oh, we've got this. What did In-N-Out do? Nothing. You want to know why? They don't care. Because there's a friggin' line at every single In-N-Out at noon in every place that they're in. I think I couldn't say enough good things about In-N-Out. Now I don't know how they treat their people at the executive level. I don't know what their company morals are. I don't know any of that. But what I can tell you is from an outside observation, those guys do it right.
Question real quick to add on this. You've had In-N-Out Burger, right?
Oh yeah,
of course. Have you had Five Guys Burger?
Oh yeah.
Which one's better in your opinion?
Oh, In-N-Out, not even close.
Are you
Boom.
serious?
Not even close.
How is it?
Thank
Okay.
you.
Wow.
I'm sorry,
I
man.
don't
See what I
understand
mean?
this.
This is
I
I
like
got to
it
deal
now.
with this stuff all the time, though.
But Five Guys tastes so much better.
It's like
You
I
think
got
so?
a target
I
on
think
my
it
back.
tastes so much better.
Well, my boys nodding Five Guys.
Huh.
Nah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that,
Interesting.
but here's the other thing. I'm a thin patty guy. I like thin patties,
Okay.
and I think In-N-Out does something in their seasoning. In-N-Out to me has the trifecta of delicious in America. They have sugary buns, okay. They have iceberg lettuce, which provides the crunch, and they have American cheese. If you put those 3 things on a burger, it's pretty hard to mess up. And the fact that they slather it in that special sauce, which God knows what kind of pixie dust unicorn tears is in that. It's freaking delicious. That shit's good, man.
Really good.
You throw me a vat of that, I'd probably eat my way out.
Yeah, that stuff's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, so I think Five Guys is a little more. Okay, biggest problem with Five Guys. I probably shouldn't even be saying this. Biggest problem with Five Guys. What's with the tinfoil wrapping?
I don't know. Yeah,
Like
it's weird.
by the time you get your burger, the whole thing's steamed out, and it's like it's gonna break apart in your hand. Like I picked the burger up, my fingerprints go all the way through the bun, and next thing you know, I'm holding patty. I'm like, well, this is a really great experience, you know. Like,
And then the paper bag that you get is just always
Yeah.
just looks gross and greasy.
yeah, I think In-N-Out. I'm an In-N-Out fan.
Same.
Five Guys does do a nice job. I like the thing I like about Five Guys is when you walk in, you can see where their potatoes came from. That's pretty cool. Whether like your potatoes from, Idaho today, potatoes from Washington, or whatever it is. And I like the size fry they cut.
Pretty thick.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
In-N-Out's better.
All right, strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch y'all later.